Good evening, chat. Hello, guys. Sorry for the late start. Had a little bit of a shit would not load, so had to fix that. Had to get that fixed for tonight. But we are here. We are live. It is Friday night. Well, it's not Friday night. It's Thursday night. Why are we doing Thursday night show on Friday night? Wow. We're just scoring home runs right off the bat here. Just like perfect work, Sean. Great job. Anyways, welcome to the Thursday night show. I am Sean, also known as Potentially Criminal. I am an attorney in the Cleveland, Ohio area. Tonight, we got, as I said during the Karen Reed trial the other night, I don't think we're going to have a ton. We'll have some things to talk about tonight. If we don't go super long, that's okay. And remember, Karen Reed is off. We haven't had Karen Reed today. We didn't have Karen Reed earlier. So we will be doing like a normal Locals show. So if this one's a little short, that's okay. We can go hang out over on Locals and have some fun there later. And if you guys don't know about Locals, I might as well just bring it up since we're here. Potentiallycriminal.locals.com. You could do everything you want on Patreon, except that out all the bullshit rules and out all the censorship that exists there. It's so much fun. You guys can join us. If you wish to join, you can join for free. If you wish to support me, it's $3 a month. Pay for 10 months, you get 2 months free. With that $3 a month, you get access to the live shows. We do 2 shows a week, a Monday night show starting at 8:30, and we do a Thursday night show right after this. And it's great time. Great time is had by all. I highly recommend it. If you're not sure you want to do it, you can use the promo code WHIPIT. Remember, WHIPIT's the WHIPIT, not the ET, because ET is the English racing dog. Smaller than a greyhound. Use the promo code WHIPIT. You get 1 month free access. 1 month free access. And you get access to those live shows. In the meantime, though, we also do other stuff. We do Jim Medicare, who won't die. When he takes to the airwaves, we join him there. We also do great things like Formula One. Guys, you know what? It's Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Monaco. It's Monaco. You know, that if you guys don't know Formula One, that's like the Daytona 500 in Monaco. It's the glitziest, it's the glamorous, it's the OG. It's the most beautiful one, it's the fun one. We are going to watch that 9 a.m. It will be a great time, so you can join us. It will be a fun way for Memorial Day weekend. And hold on one second. Well, oh, hey, buddy. Hello. Hi. We have a special guest who wanted to join us as we go through our other announcements. We have Monaco this week, so it should be a lot of fun. If you guys want to join us, 9 a.m., that is for everybody to come hang out and watch. It's always a fun time. I should do a Le Mans stream. Yeah. You want your 24-hour stream? There you go. F1 died with Senna. Okay, I don't disagree. F1 died when they went away from V10s. How about that? Monaco's the worst race on the calendar. Are you kidding me? It's a lot of fun. Hold on, chat. Apparently 2.0 needs Clyde, so she's going to take him. So you got to call for him. Shake something. So, hold on here, chat. Oh, I got to set something up here real quick, chat. Oh, I forgot to set the goal. We do have a goal out there, chat, so just take a look. If you guys feel like we can meet the goal, let's see if we can meet the goal. But yes, I agree. It's not what it used to be, but hey, it's still better than NASCAR. So that is over on Locals. Hope you'll join us. It's a fun time over there, had by all. We're also live tonight on YouTube and Twitter. It's always a fun time there. And then also, last but not least, Rumble. Rumble should be up and running. So if you guys want to use Rumble, we are doing that. But anyways, I hope you guys have had a great week. It's been a interesting week. I mean, the Karen Reed stuff aside, it's been a very interesting week for me, and I hope it's been interesting in a good way. Interesting in a good way. I hope for you guys it's been kind of good or interesting or funny and weird, whatever you guys wish it to be. I hope it's been that way. I hope it's been that way. Also live on Slutload. Yeah. Yes, also on we also have the Coca-Cola 600 Memorial Day weekend, which is always a good one too. So it's also a very nice it's nice when it's nice outside and you can watch it like in your garage, drink a beer, watch the Coca-Cola 600. It's never a bad time. Never a bad time. I will tell you that much, chat. I will tell you that much. So and the Indy 500 as well, yes, but I don't like the Indy 500 as much. And the Indy 500 is kind of like meh. I mean, I love the tradition. I love the fact you get to drink a bottle of milk at the end, and you have all that and the Brickyard's tradition. But I guess, I don't know, the Indy 500 really seemed like it's not been the same for a long, long time now. So, NASCAR can be fixed easily like Camelot race. I'm sure that'd be good. I'm sure that'd be good. All right, hold on, chat. Hold on 1 second.
One of your gifts from Alaska.
Okay. All right, chat. So we have like not necessarily mail call, but we have gift call. So this is one of my gifts from Alaska because 2.0 went on her trip. And we got Clyde. He's got a nice little, he's got a hat and he's got a little bandana. He's got I don't know what's on the hat, but
it's a train.
Oh, there's a train on the hat? Oh, so there you go, chat.
He's like a little conductor.
Yeah, choo-choo.
And he has trains on his bow tie.
There we go. So, aw.
He's a good boy.
Aw, you're a good boy, Clyde, huh?
And then you have these.
Thank you. I'll take a look at these in a second. Thank you, babe. Hopefully they're not ham sandwiches. What? Well, God, I hope not. All right, Clyde, do you want me to set you to Clyde's like, I am embarrassed. I don't like trains. I'm not a foamer like the fat man. Put me down. Clyde's going to sue me for defamation if I don't put him down here. All right, Clyde, can I put you down, Bubba? Huh? Well, you go see 2.0. Let's see if she can get you out of that hat. Okay? There you go, Bubba. Well, the hat stays on very well. All right, so what did 2.0 get me? She got me something from Skagway, Alaska. Let's see what it is here. Okay. So there's a couple things in here. Sticker. There we go. Skagway was the gateway for miners going to the Yukon during the gold rushes. It was the gateway because you could get up to there, and then from there you would cut into Canada. Although the way it worked at to climb the pass, you had to bring in 1,000 pounds worth of supplies, and you had to, like, the pass you were on was a very mountainous, treacherous piece of terrain where you had to carry your shit up the hill by hand. There wasn't a lot of pack mules or anything, so people had to do that. It's very interesting. Very interesting. How they did stuff there. Okay, I don't know what this is. Oh. Is this a train whistle? Thanks, 2.0. Yeah, it's got all the different things. You can do the see me. I'm gonna have to 3D print one, but you can do the train approaching a crossing. There we go. I don't know. Stop. Interesting. All right. Beam is gonna be pissed, I know. Well, he's suffer, meme copium. Josh, you're up to suffer. Suffer weeb. I will say all those strawberry flavored things were absolutely amazing. and the ship and all the stuff you sent me was absolutely cool. But in the meantime, soft. I got a train sticker that'll go great on the safe. Sitting in you a dildo. Beware the train people. Yes. Yeah, she trolled me in real life on stream. Yes, you guys understand. She trolls the shit out of me, like, in real life. You know, she breaks my balls like the best of them out there. She can do it. So, and then we have... Well, we have Kogo, which I guess we're like the Legos we have at home. But we have a choo-choo train. Oh, God. I'll save this for the David. David! MLS, I got something for the Lego stream. Can I use knockoff Legos? Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. Holy cow. Thank you so much, baby. No, that's it. I got the stickers. Oh. I didn't see this. It was stuck on everything. I love Clyde. Aw. This is Juneau, Alaska. I think we all love Clyde. I think that's all of us. So, gonna do a Lego Rage Quit DSP stream. No, I about did that last night with the Dauntless when the stickers, the goddamn decals got all crumpled. Made me want to quit. So instead, for the half track, I worked on making tree branches that I'm going to take apart and cut off, and then we're going to glue to the half track and give it a very late war, afraid of all the roving Allied air patrols look. So that is coming up. That is coming up. In case I need a conductor hat. I do have a conductor hat. You'll send me a pointy white conductor hat. Yeah, that's the winter version. The decal failure was glorious. Yeah, except I got the big ones on there, though. The big decals got on. So, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, sweetheart. Chick, I know you're out there. I tried to get to the post office in time. They were not. I wasn't able to get in to get your thing. And apparently, whatever you sent me is so big they didn't keep it in the post office box. So I couldn't get it. I couldn't even get a key to open up the temporary ones. So I don't know what it is, but apparently it's huge. So I will get it tomorrow when I get there because I can get there first thing in the morning. In the meantime, somebody else sent me something from Amazon. So we're going to take a look at this. There we go. All right, well, this doesn't fit on my head, so not going to work. Sorry. All right, so what is this? Is it my Sweet 16? No. Katie said, I've taken 2 edibles, so I apologize. Well, get ready. All right, so here we go. What did she get me? Or what is this thing? I don't know who sent this. They're like bumper stickers, I guess. I think these were meant for a house in Spicer, Minnesota. I guess if you guys need me to send these on, I will. But these are great bumper stickers, I guess, to just put on people's things. So again, I think these are meant for Nick. Maybe this one's a Kayla one. I don't know. This is probably a Nick one. I'm thinking this is a very good Nick one. Think this is another Nick one. Probably, I bet there would be a fight over this one in the house between Nick and Kayla, but that might be a Nick one. This might be an Aaron Imholt one. I'm not sure. And then it'll be between Nick and Aaron because they're going to deny it amongst each other. But I'm not sure if this is for Nick or Aaron. Is it my Quincy era? Yes. All right. Well, I'm not going to put all of them up on the gun safe, but one or two of them might get a spot of honor on there. So Alyssa's clipping her buns off right now. Yes. Well, I know that all my Jannies very much want these two. I'm sure they're licking their lips because remember, chat, all Jannies are gay. That's all Jannies are in life. All Jannies. So, all right, guys. So that is it. Thank you for whoever sent that. But when you guys send stuff, you don't send a note. I can't tell you thank you. So I don't know who sent them. So I don't know who to tell thank you to. So thank you so very much, whoever it is. Yes. Lime Green Joy's right. They do it for free. Those are actually temporary tattoos. Well, those would be perfect because I'm a big old fat guy. J-Rock says, why, Sean? Why? I don't know. You wanted this. So that's your problem, not me. That's something. Maybe you need to have that discussion with your therapist. And also, guys, can you tell me, is Rumble working? Because I don't see anybody in the Rumble chat. Rumble should be up. And if it's not working, let me know. Looks like it's up on my end. And it's funny because I put Rumble up, and then nobody ever uses it until I mention it. So that's always the funny part with Rumble. All right, guys. So let's get started. We are on to the Kieran Reed trial. We'll start off there, I guess, is probably the first place to start. Kieran Reed is off till Tuesday. Remember, it is Memorial Day, and tomorrow is Friday. So guess what? Nobody wants to go to work tomorrow. I have court hearings that were scheduled for tomorrow, and I've already got does anybody object to, and the court's like, we're going to do this one virtually. And I'm like, all right. What's not to love? So it's already happening. So we'll see there. We will see there. We'll see what happens there. But remember, nothing till Tuesday. Monday is Memorial Day, so there will be no court. I can guarantee you that. So tomorrow night, I mentioned this last night, we will be doing Russell Greer tomorrow night. We've got the court audio. I'm going to put that up on the farms later today. Tonight, I got a hold of that. We're all set with that. So that's some good news. We're going to talk about Russell Greer and his disaster and getting caught lying to the court about where he was and what he was doing. Should be a lot of fun. It should be a lot of fun. Sneered says, are we getting the body cam footage? Well, we're getting footage of Russell trying to get a city council to allow him to build a whorehouse. The body cam thing might be coming. Like I said, that might be coming. I know Matthew Harden and Josh Moon are working on that, but we'll find out soon. Yes, Suffa Rustard. So we will have that. We will have that for Russell Greer. It should be a very fun night. We're going to start probably about 7:30 is the goal. So we got a lot to go through. We're going to have a lot to go through. We got a lot of audio visual stuff. It's going to be a very interactive night tomorrow night. So stick around tomorrow night, 7:30. I will get the link up going and do it from there. But for Kieran Reed, guys, we went through this week, and I'm sure you guys remember this week was the testimony of the Aperture expert, Shannon Burgess, the guy who sounded like Hillbilly Jim. And I'm not here to denigrate people from the South, but oh my God, he did not do you guys any favors out there with his entire pedigree of information about him, including the fact he's been, like I said, there's nothing wrong with going to school for 17 years, but I would hope that within 17 years, you would have completed a degree and got substantial education out of the way. For Mr. Burgess, we learned actually he had not. We learned that he had also provided a bullshit curriculum vitae, also known for many of you out there in the real world as a resume. he had provided a bullshit resume indicating that he was graduated college, when in fact he had not. So Aperture, well, things got very, very interesting at that point for them as far as things were concerned. This guy literally just lit everything on fire. And you can see in the case, you can see that even Aperture realizes they screwed up. And from here, guys, we will take a look at this. This is Shannon Burgess's profile on Aperture. He's a digital forensic expert. Blah, 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 blah. You go down to his education. Now it just says an associate's in computer networking. And you notice they fixed that because they realized, wow, that really is misleading. Now, they probably were lying and they knew they were lying and they got caught. But, yes, he pledged. He pledged and used his graduates anonymously, just like Amber Heard. So that was probably the most interesting thing of the week. I know people were very surprised to see that because in the real world, when you don't have and this is something I had mentioned previously, when you don't have a degree yet, there's a simple thing you would do. You would do something like, that's how people would do it. Or you do something like this. You would never put down the year you matriculate. You would never put down a year unless you matriculated, meaning graduated or completed it. But he didn't do any of this. He put down the current year. And each year he was in school, as it was ongoing, he updated it. So back in 2022, he wrote down through 2022. Well, as every year went along and went along and went along, he did that and got caught. He got caught lying in a federal court case. I mean, it just got better and better and better for this guy. So, chat, all I can tell you is do not lie on your stuff. It's never a good idea. It's never a good idea. That was probably like the biggest thing ever because I've never seen that happen. And there's never, that stuff alone would never, ever happen in real life. You know, and I mentioned this before, and I actually was talking to Emily Baker about this. She said, yeah, if like I asked her, I'm like, well, you know, have you ever seen something like that? She's like, never. It's never happened that way. Yeah, you lie about doing Excel. You don't lie about your degree. Yes, I did hear about this KRM update. He hasn't taken classes since 2019, which I guarantee you makes sense. And I guarantee you he's doing something like 1 credit hour at a time. So, so this guy, he never made it far enough through college where they teach you how to properly write a resume. Yeah, except the thing is, even high school kids know how to write resumes. If you go online and just Google how do you write a resume, you would see the answer to that question. So this guy is horrible about it. Is fucking horrible about it. I just think it's ridiculous. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair at all. And doing a resume is so easy. Yeah, and that's the thing. Either he's an idiot or a liar. You can pick. You can pick. As far as Karen Reed stuff is gone, we are getting through the experts. The other Aperture expert is left to testify. There's probably one other medical examiner left to testify, but we're getting probably to the end of the state's case. They don't have too many people left. Which means very quickly the defense is going to get going. And now it becomes an issue of who are they going to present? How are they going to present them? And then ultimately, is Karen Reed going to testify? I don't think she needs to yet. I don't think she has to yet. We'll see. We'll see. As far as like, I know some of you guys are saying, what do I think is going to happen? Well, we're getting pretty much close to like, we're at halftime. I think Karen Reed's still in the fight. I think she's down still a couple of, like, I mean, the state's still ahead. Not by much, though, and that's really bad for the state. That means Karen Reed's going to be able to probably close the gap. So we'll see what happens. But I think Karen Reed still got a 50-50 shot at getting acquitted. Now, at the end of last week, I thought she was toast. But given how bad the expert went this week, we will see. We will see. Nima's saying the state has way too many witnesses at day 20. No, this is actually better than the amount of witnesses they had the first time around. So they're doing better. High numbers is the jury thinks he's a hillbilly. I mean, maybe. Who knows? Who knows how retarded the jury is? They might be dumber than he is, and that would be really bad. So you never know. You never know. It all come down probably to the aperture expert, the one that's left, Dr. Welcher, who is, I think he's like the guy who runs Aperture or something like that. Let me see if I can bring him up, because this is the guy who's gonna be this is gonna be the guy here. This is it right here. Yeah. As the song goes, let's hear it for the boy. You don't have to give him a hand, but this is him. He's a biomechanical engineer and accident reconstructionist, and he's been with Aperture for a long time. This guy is actually around. He's got a BS in mechanical engineering. He's got a master's from USC. So the guy's not a dope. The guy's not a dope. He got his PhD in biomedical engineering. Like this guy's got decent. He's got decent certs, and these certifications are the same ones that the ARCA people have. Although from the way that this went, considering he's one of the leaders of the company, given how Hillbilly Jim did a great job, I don't know if you guys remember hearing this in chat, but people got calling him Walmart ARCA. So we'll see. We'll see. The BSME from SLO, well, I think you're being a little smarty pants there. But yeah, Cal Poly's not bad. Cal Poly's not bad. So, Mavka says, are they real? We'll see. We'll see. He claims to have a degree. Yes, it's the dollar. It's Temu Arca. No, it's I think it's Walmarca is probably the better version. That's the better making fun of thing there is Walmarca. So I think that's how you guys need to do it. Yes, as this is very funny here. Yes, as somebody posted on Locals. Yes, open to work. Yes, very open to work. So Mike says that's a legit school. Oh, so it actually is a legit school. There we go. Cal Poly wasn't bad when he graduated. All right, I'll take your guys' word for it. So he's got a decent degree. So yeah, so we have the ARCA at home. Throws the bottle in the yard. Oh, K-Marca. Ah, that's good too. Open to work, closed for college education. Yes. So. Boojalicious is saying, they asked me if I had a degree in theoretical physics. I told them I have a theoretical degree in physics. Hoo-wee. So, yeah. Anyways, that's the update with Karen Reed, guys. It is ongoing. The territory, okay, this is funny. Do you think his photo is going to fade on the Aperture website Marty McFly does? Yeah, he's sitting at home and Earth Angel's playing. And it's just fading away. And there's nothing he can do. Oh. He graduated. That doesn't mean it's still decent. Well, I understand. You were saying it was good back then. So. All right. Okay. So moving on from there. The Diddy trial is underway. And if you guys haven't heard, the Diddy trial has had its own bit of hilariousness, even though, yes, Diddy's facing basically life in prison. And it is through the court sketch artist. The court sketch artist in the Diddy case is absolutely hilarious. You get gems like this, and you're just like, the Diddy courtroom sketches are absolutely hilarious if you guys have not seen them. I love these ones. There's so many of them where he just looks like an absolute alien. And that's Cassie Ventura. And you guys are like, well, wait, why does she look? Well, she's pregnant. There's some other ones that are so goddamn funny here. Here's another one. Here's a one Diddy looking back over his shoulder. There's like these are like almost the thread in of themselves. Diddy, all dressed up. When Diddy came into court recently, he did the little hand heart thing and just... you're just looking at this, you're like, wow, 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 look at this guy. Why is Kim Jong-un in there? Yes. Why is he there? I don't know. He got dressed like Bill Cosby. Yeah, well, that's a restriction on what he's allowed to wear. Don't bother none, says did he go, ew. No, I'm sure he did not. I'm sure he did not. So Diddy's trial is ongoing. And there's a lot of stuff that's come out. A lot of people have testified. Like, obviously, Cassie Ventura testified to a lot of stuff that happened out there. While she testified, remember, she's the woman he drugged down the hall by her hair. There were text messages and things like that that came out. And while those came out, there have been other text messages, things coming out where it looks like she's involved. It's consensual. So a lot of these things from Diddy, there's a lot of back and forth right now. And the defense is doing a really good job as far as things are concerned. We're learning other things that are out there. So we learn, there's a lot of stuff that come out during Diddy's trial, and people who've been reporting on it have released some interesting things here. Like that Diddy's mom is basically in charge of him, and she goes with him everywhere. His alias during the freak offs was Frank Black, when he was getting prescription drugs for the freak offs. It also, and as people are saying, it kind of makes it sound like Pizzagate was ultimately real at the end of the day. You're like, oh my God, was Pizzagate real? Was Pizzagate real? It's like, we don't know. But it sounds like it really was in this situation. There's a lot of stuff that's been released as far as testimonies going concerned. Like Kid Cudi testified, and he brought up a lot of things that his car got torched with a Molotov by Diddy because Diddy wanted that to happen. So there's pictures of his car getting hit with a Molotov, and Diddy had ordered this to happen here. And like, obviously, I mean, like the car is not torched in the real sense, but that car is ruined. You might drive this. And this is when he was going out with Cassie Ventura, and Cassie gave Diddy the address for this. So Diddy went and lit it on fire. Diddy offered him some water as the car was burning. But yeah, it's Diddy sounds like a crazy fucking guy. Diddy sounds like a lunatic. Yeah, you could live in it. Yes. Sweet Tooth Fairy says, what is Pizzagate? Pizzagate is the idea that there was a what was it called? Popcorn pizza, I think, down in Washington, D.C. And it's the idea that, in addition to that, people like John Podesta in their emails would talked about eating pizza a lot and ordering pizza. And you might say, oh, like, well, cheese pizza means kiddie porn. No. Comet Ping Pong Pizza. Yeah, I don't know. I was getting confused with the Pizza Planet from Toy Story. Although that's really bad. But they were ordering pizzas, and they talked about, like, eating young pizzas, and they had code words about eating pizza all the time. Having pizza in the hot tubs. A lot of real fucked up shit with Pizzagate. And this is John Podesta and other people. And there was an idea that at this Ping Pong Pizza in D.C., one of the people who ended up getting arrested and is a pedophile was, doing the whole pedophile cabal thing down in the basement where kids were getting murdered. Well, somebody went there and shot up the place. Apparently, they were able to look. There is no pedophile cabal thing there. It's just somewhere else. So that's a whole thing there. It's tied in with Jeffrey Epstein and Hillary Clinton and the Podestas. And as Alex Jones tells us about the globalists and the interdimensional psychic vampires and the potbelly goblins who are hobbling around after us. That's what it's all about. You just got to be ready. Yes, adrenochrome for all. Adrenochrome for all. The $30,000. Yes, the tables of Wayfarer that are $30,000 a piece. Yes, because that's how they ship the children, is inside those furnitures. Yes, but the Patriots are in control, chat. That's all you need to know. The globalists, we're coming for you, globalists. We're coming for you. So that is, yes. They're making the frogs gay. So that is, but that said, though, there really is a ring of pedophiles that are out there who are probably murdering and eating children as they go. That really is a thing. So, yes, the Wayfarer sheds are named for kids they're selling. Yes. Yes, Angela, how are you doing, by the way? Yes, the way life is going, I can really believe it. Me too. Yes, and on a long enough timeline, Alex Jones is correct. Yes, he gets the long play. This is where Alex Jones must have gone like 1,000 years into the future and is telling us as much as he can remember from reading history books. And he's getting it mostly right. So, yes, the shipping weights were really fucked up too on those. Yes, they were. So, yeah, there's a whole Pizzagate thing. Maybe one day we'll talk about that. For the longest time, YouTube would shut you down if you talked about that stuff. So it's kind of interesting. Aussie Mark over on Rumble saying, "Where's the body cam?" The body cam is coming. I promise. It's getting worked on. It'll be here before you know it. So just give it time. So Rumble seems frozen. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, just refresh it and stuff. So Mike says, what about in the year 2400? Alex Jones is seen then how we look at Copernicus and Galileo. That'll be hilarious. So, yes, 2 more weeks to curb the body cam. Yes. All right, guys, let's keep moving here. Before we get too far, though, we do need to get to our sponsors of the show tonight. I just need to get them out of the way real quick. We have the dragonstreasure.com. Use the promo code criminal. Get you 10% off, chat. Guys, remember, use the promo code criminal for your purchases of tea, also coffee, and soaps from the Dragon's Treasure. Help the tea man out. Buy his tea. Buy some based fucking tea out there. Buy your tea from a guy who would not let his kids test positive for cocaine. Do not, support a man who would not let his nanny be drunk around the kids and not report it to the cops. The tea man would report it to the cops. So support the tea man, guys. He really needs your support right now. Times are getting a little tough for him. Had some personal issues. He would appreciate if you could help him out. And I've already told him anything he gets right now using my promo code, I want him to keep that 10%, turn it around, use it on what he needs to, keep the business going. Help the tea man out, guys. Buy his tea. Take care of the tea man. Next chat, we have MAF-arms.com. That's right, chat. MAF-arms.com, the MAF Corporation. Matt LaRosier from Fudbusters. You know him. You love him. Guys, it's wind chime season. Get your chimes ready. And remember, guys, if you use the promo code PODCRIM, you get 10% off. And if you leave a note in the comments of your order, Matt will give a big old kiss, lipstick kiss on your order. In orders of $500 or more, Ivan, the spinning rat himself, will also get some lipstick on and give you a big old sensual kiss on your invoice and a couple of XOs, and maybe even a woo if you buy just enough. But that's at MAF-arms.com. And then last but not least, chat, we have Stoney's Bar and Grill. That's right, chat. Stoney's at 1580 East Broadway Street in Rockville, Minnesota, chat. I don't know what else to tell you, guys. It's Stoney's. What more can I say? Guys, remember, June 7th, they are doing the Ride for Heroes. They're benefiting the Rockville Fire Department. It's going to be a motorcycle run. Registration starts at 10:30 in the morning on the 7th. It's $20 on a person. You get food after the ride. You get free camping and even street dancing. They're going to get really ethnic on you. You can go dance out in the street at Stoney's. They're going to have music from Hollywood Boulevard. They're sponsored by Bush. I mean, what more can you want? Drinking some Bush, get some Bush Lights. That's the best thing ever. And chat, remember, it's Thursday, so what's that mean now? It's bike night. That's right, chat. You could go out to Stoney's in front of everybody and just crank your hog all night long. It's only $9.17 out there, chat. You got time to get out there and crank your hog today. It's great. They had Jimmy Z's food truck out there. It's been great. It's been great out there as far as things been going. And chat, remember it's Thursday, so the $2.50 cans. You know, I don't know what more. I don't know what more you want. I really don't know what more you want. All right. Guys, on the Saturday, they have Paul Jensen in the garage, the world famous Stoney's garage from 2 to 5. And it's just going to be great. It's going to be great. Guys, go out to the garage, which will take you out into the I would still call it pristine patio. And chat, I did want to say on a sad note, I let Aaron know, but I'll probably have to remind him. I am not going to be able to make it to the anniversary show for Steel Toe, which is going to be held at Stoney's. So they're going to have to do the fallen. They're going to have to do the salute to the fallen Naked Twister pad there in my honor. So just like the fallen handyman, they're going to do the fallen Naked Twister. But you guys could still go. Steel Toe would appreciate it. The Steel Toe Morning Show would appreciate your support. And that's all at Stoney's, chat. Serving Minnesota for 30 years. That's right, chat. 30 years as the premier biker bar. Give them a look if you're in the area. So, no Naked Twister. Yeah, sorry, I'm not going to be there. Can I appear by hologram? Amon Rez is saying, would I really, if I could go, I think I would. I think it'd have been a lot of fun. I think it would have been a lot of fun. So. Sven Luchtenberger saying another L for the toe. Yeah, well, you know, he needs some L's once in a while. Keeps him humble. I have to stream naked in solidarity. Well, yeah, there we go. That sounds like a good guy. Angela says we have a Stoney's on P Street. Ooh, Cheeto, you better fire up the lawsuit machine, man. There's somebody stealing your valor out in Washington D.C. Vanessa says, I think me and Meme Copium have to go there together. That would be the best. All right, chat. Let's keep moving. We got stuff to do. We're burning daylight here. So let's keep moving. All right, where are we going to now? This is an interesting thing, guys. And I know we covered this a little bit. But this is going on to Jennifer Aniston. Jennifer Aniston has a stalker that's been, stalking her. And you're wondering, well, why is this such a big deal? That happens all the time. Well, it is. And it's a very interesting set of circumstances. So earlier this month, a guy named Jimmy Wayne Carwile from New Albany, Mississippi, showed up and got charged with felony stalking and felony vandalism. So what did he do? Well, for the past 2 years, he's been harassing the shit out of Jennifer Aniston. You know, not bad. You could harass far uglier celebrities. But on May 5th, he ultimately drove his car through her front gate, knocked it over, and he was arrested by the security guards. And right now, he's facing up to 3 years in prison. So you're like, okay. You're thinking, wow, this guy's probably crazy. And if you thought that, well, you're not wrong. You are absolutely not wrong, because here is a picture of Jimmy Wayne. That is him. That is the boy. You know, yes. And you're saying, wow, he's in a suicide smock. Yes, he is. Wow, he's behind glass. Yes, he is. Wow, he looks like a crazy man. Yes, he does. So what happened? Well, he is actually there. That's him with his public defender, talking during his court hearings. That's actually his arraignment from previously. So obviously you're thinking, well, this guy's probably crazy. He needs a psychological evaluation. He got one. Well, and surprise, surprise, he was determined not competent to stand trial. Well, guess what the crazy guy said? In an interesting twist, he pulled out that reverso card and threw it on the table. He said, I'm not crazy. I want a second opinion. So the stalker wants a second opinion after a doctor says he's unfit for trial. You're like, wait, what? Now, you can do this. Now, normally, you would want that. You would want this. You would 100% want this. You would 100% want this if you were in court. You're like, oh my God, we got what we wanted. Well, not for this guy. Not for Jimmy Wayne. Jimmy Wayne is actually going forward and saying, no, I'm not. I am competent. I want to go forward. I want to go forward for trial. And the judge is like, all right, you know, we'll do this. We'll do this. And the judge said, you know, Mr. Public Defender, what do you want to do? And the public defender did the right thing. He said, Your Honor, my client doesn't think he's mentally incompetent. He thinks he's with it and he wants a second opinion. Now, notice, he probably is crazy, but he has a duty to his client. In that situation, you know, you got to do your thing. You got to do your thing. So he is wanting to stand trial. So the judge is granting his request. They're setting a new hearing for May 29th, so next week. And in the meantime, he is still there on a $150,000 bail. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Now, how does this all work? Well, it's not uncommon. I've had this happen before. This is actually a thing that happens when you have a client who you're like, this guy's probably crazy. A lot of them get very mad when you bring up an insanity plea. A lot of them get very mad when you talk about, we're going to ask that you get assessed for competency. This is a delicate issue. Now, I don't know if this guy exploded and got mad, but every once in a while you get people who are like, I'm not crazy, and they get really, really freaking angry about it. That's not always the case. Sometimes they're just like, hey man, I'm not crazy. I don't want to do this. And they get really mad and they say, like, don't allow this to happen. Don't go forward with it. Well, you know, what do you do? Well, you tell the court, and then the court, even then, the court could still make its own determination and say, you know what, crazy guy, you may not think you're crazy and your attorney is doing the right thing here representing you, but I think you're crazy. I have concerns about your competency. So I'm going to have you reevaluated. I'm going to have you evaluated. And that way it kind of pulls the heat off you as an attorney, especially like in appointed cases, you know, because obviously you've got to represent your client. And the other neat thing is the prosecution can also raise competency as an issue. So I've had that happen before where I look at the prosecutor, I'm like, you might want to have to do this because I can't do it. And they understand, like, you're like, if you do this, your guy's going to, you know, so you let the other parties raise the issue. It does happen. It does happen. So, so it's very interesting. And then one of you guys mentioned already in the comments, it is interesting because normally the people who aren't crazy want second opinions to be found crazy. And the people who are crazy are very adamant that they're not crazy. That's not an uncommon thing at all. That happens actually quite a bit. It's kind of funny. It's kind of ironic, I guess, if you could say it that way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this guy. If he gets a second opinion and the guy says, you know, you're crazy too. You're not competent to stand trial. Is he going to accept that, or is he still going to want to go to trial? Now, remember, at some point, the court will accept those findings and say, I actually agree with these people. You are incompetent to stand trial. Now it becomes an issue of restoration. Can we medicate you and treat you to bring you back to competency? Because remember, competency is just, can you help assist in your own defense? That doesn't relieve or prevent you from pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. That is also an action you can take. Because remember, you could be temporarily insane. You could be insane and then restored later. So it doesn't prevent him from doing an NGRI defense, although I'm betting somebody like him is going to say, no, I'm completely sane. So it'll be very interesting to see where this guy goes. Maybe we'll get to watch this trial. I mean, obviously we watched the ASAP Rocky trial. This will be a good one. This will be a good one. So it will be there. And you guys, once again, this is the saga of Jimmy Wayne Carwile. So there he is, Jimmy Wayne Carwile. And we'll see. I mean, I get the feeling, I bet this guy probably isn't competent to stand trial, but you know, who knows? Who knows what he can prove? Who knows what he can't? So That'll be an interesting thing going forward. What's going to happen to this guy? What's going to happen to him? Okay. Well, hold on. Where are we moving forward from here? All right. Now, moving on from there, this is something that if you guys have been in the military or previously in the military, currently in the military, or just kind of to test the way like defense procurement and the military industrial complex is run, this may warm your heart just a little bit. I think you guys will like this. Let's see here. Hold on. Chat need to fix a couple things. All right. So a very common thing in the military industrial complex and in, military flag officers, if you're not aware, are people who are generals or admirals. So in the Army, the Air Force, and the Marines, you have generals, and in the Navy, you have admirals. And if you guys don't know your rank system, the generals are at the tippy top, and there's 4 levels of general, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, and 4 star. For many of those people, they end up retiring from the military and then end up in consultants jobs and get cushy jobs at like Raytheon, which, remember, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was running Raytheon before he became Secretary of Defense. And before he was running Raytheon, he was a 4-star general in the U.S. Army. You're like, isn't that interesting? Yes. People like Mark Milley, he's going to get consultant jobs everywhere he goes. It happens all over the place. For example, you'll see with the Army trying to develop a new rifle. The people in charge of that program, eventually when they retire, are going to find themselves in defense contractor jobs where they're making sweet, sweet payola. The same thing happened for the Army general who pushed for the digital camouflage pattern in the early 2000s. Well, he got some decent jobs afterwards. You're like, isn't that kind of like bribery? Probably is. Is it very uncouth? Very much so. And finally, from there, somebody has actually been charged with a crime. And if you weren't aware of this, a retired Navy Admiral was convicted on bribery charges. So for those of you who are former service or even current service, you're probably sitting there clapping like it's about damn time. Well, it did finally happen. It happened to Vice Admiral Robert P. Burke. And if you guys are wondering what that means, well, he is a 3-star admiral. This is Admiral Burke before he retired. And I'm sorry, he was a 4-star at the time. Sorry, not 3-star. He was convicted on Monday of using his position in the Navy to steer, millions of dollars in contracts to a company that had given him a lucrative job. So it's very interesting that this finally happened because this is a very common thing in the military. So not even just flag officers, but staff officers, typically like lieutenant colonels and colonels, this happens frequently as well. But it's generally the animus is for those people who are involved in, flag positions because they're the ones who generally make stuff happen at their level. But this happened here. So he was in a week-long trial with 4 days of deliberations, and he got charged with felony counts included bribery and conspiracy. He faces up to 30 years in prison. And he's scheduled for August 22nd. He said he hasn't done anything wrong. So he became one of the highest-ranking former U.S. military officers ever convicted of a crime. He retired in 2022, having risen to the Navy's highest second-ranking officer. And at the time of the scheme, he was in charge of the naval operations in Europe and Africa. So what did he do? Well, it becomes an issue here. So last May, they charged him and a couple of people from a technology company where he had lined up a $500,000 a year job and a grant of 100,000 stock options when he retired. So what did he have to do? Well, he had to award a $350,000 contract to a company to train people in Italy and Spain. Yeah, which is interesting. You're like, okay, well, and that's how this stuff goes. And it's not just, contracts like this, but it's like you're gonna select our handgun for the military's competitions. You're gonna select our rifle. You're gonna select our uniforms, our uniform patterns. We're gonna be the supplier of this. And if you guys don't realize this, in the military, there's so many suppliers and equipment for everything. Who supplies the tools for the guys who work on the tanks? Snap-on is one of the big people there. But all these companies, who buys the pens for the Army? Who buys the Navy's, shoes? Who buys the mops for the Marine Corps? Who buys hash browns for the Air Force dining halls? All of this stuff is, stuff they get involved with there. There's all kinds of things that, who supplies, how are you procuring ammunition? How are you procuring weapons? How are you procuring damn near everything? Damn near everything. How are you getting the bids for all this stuff? It's very, very interesting. And for the military, there are people who are it's called procurement in the military. There are people who are just in charge of that. They have procurement commands and procurement departments, which are part of their material, like the Air Force Material Command, Army Material Command, like entire organizations solely meant just to get stuff there. Somebody thinks it's funny the Marines get mops. Well, okay, somebody has to buy the crayons for the Marines out there. So it's very interesting there. It's very interesting. So that is how this works. There is all this there. So they also wanted him to use his a former vice chief of naval operations, and the head of the chief of naval operations is the senior naval officer below the joint chiefs, who don't actually have, like obviously the CNO is the person in charge of the Navy, to use this and award other training contracts to the company. And he told the executives he would stay in the Navy for 6 months to make this happen. So it's very interesting how this all happens here. Like, he stuck around and got involved in this stuff. And it's, obviously this is one side of the story, but this appears to have been what was put out there. And it's very sketchy. It's very, very sketchy how this all breaks down. So it's, in the indictment itself, the company wasn't initially named, but the Navy terminated their contracts and they told them not to contact Admiral Burke because the Navy was not happy with what they did. So despite that, they kept meeting with him and proposed that he steer the contracts to them. And he used his position and influence over other officers to get more stuff awarded. And yeah, it's just like, wow, that's fucking bribery. That's fucking bribery. That's really bad. We shouldn't be tolerating it. So it's a very interesting thing there. It is a very interesting way how this all works out. So I just wanted to put it out there that if you guys happen to be related to the military or, served or whatever, you might be like, oh, wow, finally something happened. And yes, have some faith out there. Have some faith. I guess things are starting to get cracked down on. Have some faith. Stuff is working. The swamp is getting cleaned out. You'll see. You'll see. You'll see. You guys have a bunch of comments on this one here. Johan Naxos for $20. And guys, I forgot there are a bunch of super chats up above. I need to get to those. I'll get to those in a second here. Johan says for $20. Thank you for the super chat, sir. The reason why Dell was the main desktop and laptop suppliers is because Dell was buddies with a high-ranking colonel, and he wrote the J&A for some obscure BIOS function that only Dell had. They used a small business Fed on-ramp program. Yeah, Dell became a staple of government laptops and equipment suppliers. So, Just in Time says, yes, General Milley. Did I not? Well, there's General Milley. There's also General Austin. Yes, General Milley, I'm sure, is going to be getting some luxurious things here. I'm sure he'll be working at Lockheed Martin before you know it. Keopathic says, the only fair part I give is many military often sell their clearance, so they're easy to bring on. Everything else is graft. Yes, and that's true. But okay, great. They could consult on the project and say, here's the type of requirements we need in the military. That's fine. But the people in charge of granting and hiring the program should not be the ones who can get jobs. Spetz says sam.gov and you can see everything contract-wise. Yes. And there's just gajillions of contracts. And Shredder S07 says just because it's sketchy doesn't mean it's legit. Yes. Keopathic says the companies make okay money doing their job. They make all the money with a government contract. Yes. If Uncle Sugar is paying, cool, buddy, you are doing good. You are doing good. Cosmo says, will he have a military tribunal? Well, could he have a court-martial? Yes. As an officer, he is subject to recall and military punishment. I don't know if that's going to happen, especially if he's just facing a ton of shit like this. The military may wash their hands of it. I don't know. It's up to them. They don't have to. They don't have to. But it could happen because as an officer, you are subject to recall, especially as a retired officer like that. And real quick here, real quick, going back to the Jimmy Wayne story, the Jennifer Aniston stalker. Visit Hedonism 2. No, thank you. Says free Jimmy Wayne. Summonable Trap says he looks like a dignified cult leader. Well, he looks like a nicer cult leader. His grooming's better. Luke Pearson says it's funny how the incompetent people fight to be found competent and vice versa. Yes, I agree. And Wrestler Town says he knows he's right. Oh, yeah. And then Derna 1804 for $2. Thank you. It's saying, Your Honor, my client really is the Red Dragon. Well, he does give off those vibes. He does give off those vibes. Holy cow. Holy cow, he does. Nervenral is saying, what happened to Hedonism 1? I think there was some, there was a place called Hedonism, but I think it kind of went under and they just called it Hedonism 2. But there really hasn't been a technical Hedonism 1 from what I understand. So. Sweet Tooth says, can his pension go bye-bye? The Navy would have to remove it, so they'd have to recall him and do a court-martial. But they could strip it from him. It doesn't automatically go away. And Keopathic, okay, yeah, you bring it. If they try and convict, they can strip his pension. Yes, but he has to face a court-martial. So we'll see. The Hedonism 3 is going to be in Ohio. I would on behalf of Allah burn that place to the ground. I would do Allah's will and take care of that. Yeah, they'll let them off light, I'm betting. Well, I'm thinking they probably will. Because they're like, I'm gonna go to prison next. They're like, I don't want that. I want my contract. There's, whoever's on his court-martial is gonna be like, wait, I have a contract I'm promising. I have a job I'm waiting on. So they're all going to say not guilty. Yes, everyone's steering contracts. Yes, 100% they are. So, Hedonism 3 will at Cedar Point. Ew. Oh, no. So, Vanessa Anderson says waiting on the government to see how good their case is and use all that evidence. And it's not double jeopardy because it's different charges. Actually, it's not double jeopardy because it's dual sovereigns in a way. You can actually, in a way, if you commit a crime, If you are in the military and you commit a crime in a state, but it's also a federal level offense, you could be tried by your state, you could be tried by the feds, and then you could get tried by the military. The military is separate jurisdiction over military members. So they could try him, and there's no double jeopardy issue there with that. It's an entirely, guys, and this is where I would need some JAG officers to come on and explain stuff. But the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, is a separate, it's a world unto itself. It's an entire universe that operates independently. It's very interesting. So it's very, very interesting. Been there, done that, says the UCMJ is worse. At times it's worse, but as I've mentioned this before, the UCMJ has better constitutional protections for people than we do. And they've had them forever. When you've had 4th and 5th and 6th Amendment issues, the Supreme Court, in many of those cases you'll come across, cites the UCMJ and how military courts handle things. So, for example, you had a right to remain silent. And you had rights. You had Miranda rights in the military before there were Miranda rights. The military offers a lot of protections. Now, there's a lot of ways you get fucking hammered. You know, things like non-judicial punishments, things like that. That's a whole nother story. But overall, your rights to you have a lot more constitutional right protections in the military that are actually upheld than you do walking around. It's interesting. It is interesting. Let's see. You guys are talking. Yeah, it's a very interesting setup there. Then again, Judge Glanville from the YSL trial was a JAG officer. Yes. Yes. Article 32 is a catch-all. So you could be innocent of violating every other one, but then say, oh, well, you're guilty. Yes. Well, that's the thing. The UCMJ has things that are weird and not funny, but overall it's, you know, they do a better, you have better constitutional protections than regular civilians walking around on that. So, oh, Kia Patrick points out something. On the other side of the PMO, they give you a paper saying you understand your rights, then one saying you waive your rights. You don't want to talk, you stay in the brig till you do. Okay, well, that's a whole other issue. That's a whole other issue. So, but overall, like your protections, you have a lot of them that in the military that we didn't have constitutionally recognized for a long time. So, all right, moving on from there, chat. Moving on from there, it's... Oh, this one is so funny. Out in New Orleans, a jailbreak happened. As Thin Lizzy told us tonight, there's going to be a jailbreak. Some of us will not survive. Well, in New Orleans, they did have a jailbreak. And it's very, very interesting what happened. Why is this? We need to get rid of it. So in New Orleans, there is a jailbreak, and there's been a massive manhunt because 10 guys escaped from custody. And they are being hunted down right now. Why is this? Why can't I get rid of this here? What is going on? Okay. So these guys escaped recently. And now they're out of the 10, there are 5 on the run. So what happened? Well, these guys basically cut a hole through the jail and escaped out into the city. And how do they do this? Well, it's very interesting. So on last week, the night before the escape, the jail was on lockdown. And then on the early morning hours of Friday, no sheriff's deputy was there watching the jail. And the guards or the civilian workers had stepped away to go get some Taco Bell. Well, at that point, the inmates forced their way out. And we have video of them getting out. And it's kind of hilarious. So there's video of these guys escaping. And yes, they ripped the toilet off the wall and cut their way out to freedom. So this is the police discussing what they've done. But they jimmied open all their sliding doors and they go, here they go.
whole, this is how it is. So, sure.
We'll provide this to y'all.
So you see them jarring open the door. They get open. Subsequently, they go inside that cell, and this is where you see them exiting the loading dock door. As you know, if you notice, they are carrying blankets with them. This road that they're going out of is behind this building, as I explained. They subsequently go through another door. And here, at some point, you will see them come through here, and they scale the fence through this door that's near the construction site. They scale that fence, and then make good on their escape, crossing all lanes of I-10.
And that's right. So the jail, then they broke out right onto the highway.
That's where you see them
and
going across that.
This is like the biggest game of Frogger ever. Frogger for your freedom. Now look at him just running across traffic. Just.
And as Casey said,
so that's what happened here. Now, this is a very interesting thing that happens when you do this. When you escape, they're not just going to let you go. Number one, you're bad people. You've done a lot of crime. But number two, the government has to go get you because now there's an interest in we have to show we're more powerful than you are. Because if you're more powerful than the government, from a philosophical standpoint, the government has then lost its grasp on the monopoly of violence. Because if you can no longer, as Wyatt Earp said in Tombstone, no, Sheriff, I don't think I'm going to let you arrest me today. Well, guess what? You've effectively destroyed the law and order of that authority. So what happened to these guys? Well, these guys escaped, and the city started, the government started hunting them down pretty much ruthlessly. And it's very interesting because there have been maps and there's information out there. This is where all these guys have been caught in the past couple of days. One of the guys that got caught within 10 miles of New Orleans, like 10 miles of the jail. One of the, these guys were all caught basically hanging out. And this may seem weird to you, but these guys they're not smart. Like the one guy got caught in his neighborhood. He went straight home and just did his thing. Like you can't do that. When you escape, you're on the run forever till you get caught. Like if you go home, they're going to look for you there. And these guys are just hanging out. So like just hang on back where he lives. Like you don't get to go home anymore. You're on the run. You're a wanted man. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. So you can't just do that. Like they are going to hunt you to the ends of the earth. There are, here's how they did. Here's how they got out of what happened here. Here's how they got through the doors, and here's how they got through the walls. They did quite a bit. They did quite a bit here. And here is what they did for getting out. Instead of doing the Raquel Welch poster, they just taunted the police, which certainly that's not the best way to do it. But there they go. There they go. Oh, not the smartest way of doing it. Not the smartest way of doing it. I would never recommend this way of doing it. And there's still even more, though, because we do know now there are betting odds on these guys that are still out on the run. And you can bet on them. I don't think these are official betting odds. But yes, there is a... I love this one here. It's like, the wily veteran might turn himself in just for the reward. But yes, like it's funny. They mentioned this guy last seen in Algiers. That's kind of what you have to do. You're going to be on the run. You're going to be living on the own forever. There is no going home when you escape from jail or prison. There's no going home. You're not able to do that. This isn't 1930 anymore. You can't do stuff like this. Yeah, you basically have to go to Zihuatanejo, Mexico, and go look for the fishing boats and find Andy Dufresne. There's no other way out. There's no other way out, you guys. So, there's no other way. So this is just completely dumb how they were doing this. It was completely dumb. You were never going to survive out there for that long. You're going to have to go to somewhere, and like if you do want to go somewhere, you're going to have to find a country that won't extradite you. Now that doesn't mean that they will or they won't. They could still extradite you. But if you Google countries with no extradition treaty with the United States, not all of them are places you want to go. And even if you can get there, you know, this is a list of, here is a map of all the countries you can go to. So think about this. Countries you can go to that have an extradition treaty. Well, some of you guys are thinking, I'll go to Central America. Nope, not happening. Not happening. You know, that's not going to work. You know, there's all kinds of stuff you can try. Central America's out. South America's out. The Caribbean's out. You're going to have to go to places like, you might be able to get into the Gulf states, but you're going to get flagged probably very quickly if you try to get in. They won't take you. And they have pretty good relationships with the United States where they might turn you over because you're just some shitty criminal. But you're going to have to go to Yemen or Laos. Yeah, have fun in Laos. Like a state in a communist civil war. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. You know, you're going to have to go to Mali. You're going to have to go to Burkina Faso. You're going to have to go to Niger. You're going to have to go to Chad. Like, do you really want to go to these places? Do you want to go to Mauritius? You know, do you want to go to Equatorial? You want to go to Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea? Do you want to go to the Democratic Republic of Congo? Hell no. Do you want to go to Ethiopia? Do you want to go to Somalia or Eritrea? Do you want to go to Madagascar? Do you want to go to Mozambique? No, you don't want to go to any of these places. Are you going to want to go there? No, you won't. You want to go to Afghanistan? I don't. Are you going to want to go to Uzbekistan and Tajikistan? All these countries are really hard to get into if you can get into them anyway. So anywhere you can get to is going to be really, really fucking awful. It's not somewhere you want to live. Even if you can get there, you're going to deal with a nasty and corrupt and violent government that'll do whatever the hell they want to you. And it's not like you can go to the U.S. Embassy and go, oh my God, please help me. Remember, you're on the run from the law. So it doesn't work that way. You know, it doesn't work that way. You know, it doesn't, you know, are you going to be, you know, there's no pulling a renegade and, you know, go screaming to the ambassador, I'm in fear of my life from the long arm of the law in whatever shithole country you're in. Because guess what? The long arm of the law in America is coming after you too. And hold on, chat, 1 second here. I need to fix one of my lights. It just moved. Hold on. Let me fix that real quick. I think that fixes the problem. There we go. I think that's a little better light control. There we go. All right. Does that look a little better, guys? I think I kind of turned it down a little bit there. Am I being swatted? Not yet. So you just got to be careful. Wherever you're going to want to go is not going to be fun, and it's going to be really, really fucking bad. So the best idea is not to commit a crime. Well, yes, thank you. That's a very easy one. So I need whatever light meme has. Yeah. Kung Fu Fish is compared to prison. I don't know. I'm betting living in the Congo is probably worse than prison. I'm betting living in the Congo is probably worse than prison. I'm betting living on the run in Equatorial Guinea is probably worse than prison. I mean, these are countries that have military dictatorships. Like, no, I would not want to be in these places. I would not want to go to them. I mean, like where would you want to go? Because some of these places are going to be awful. You know, like in the places that you think you might have a chance in, like, you know, like Sierra Leone or Liberia, they have extradition treaties. You can go to the Ivory Coast, like that's going to be awful. You know, there's just nowhere you're going to want to go. There's nowhere that anybody in their right mind would want to go to. You know, go have fun in Angola, go have fun in Rwanda, I guess, or Burundi or Uganda. Like, you have fun with that. You have fun with that. You have fun with that. You just gotta like hiking, yeah. The Ivory Coast, are you insane? Well, that's where there's no extradition treaty. But you've got a problem. That's a French protectorate. So you might be hanging out there and the Foreign Legion has to come through and crack skulls. Yeah, I don't want to be anywhere. You could have fun with Djibouti. Yes, you could go hang out with Joe Dolio and Tactical Wisdom and have fun in Djibouti. Although I'd have to be careful about Djibouti. They probably cooperate with the United States because the U.S. and China have major bases there. And so do the French. And they said, hey, bring that guy over. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to bring your ass over. So as much as you think you might have a chance, they'll still cooperate. They'll still cooperate. There's no obligation to. You prefer to hide in plain sight. Well, that's not how it's going to work. That's not how it's going to work. So don't try it that way. You're not going to win. You're not going to win. Please don't try that. Please don't try that. Okay. All right, guys. We need to get moving here. We got more stuff. Oh, we got a bunch of shit to get through. Okay. So we talked about this before with the Arizona, the election, the 2020 election, going on to the issues in many states with the slates of electors, the alternate slates of electors. Well, they were labeled the fake electors in many states. Arizona's one who, along Michigan and other states, actually indicted people for what went on. Not just in Georgia, where they went after Trump and everybody in that RICO case, which crashed and burned. Suffer, Fanny, suffer. But also it happened in Wisconsin. And you saw what happened to people like John Eastman. And this is one of the sagas involving John Eastman. John Eastman has been charged not only in Georgia, but he's also been charged in Wisconsin. And now he's facing charges in Arizona. And, well, what's been going on? Well, from here, the court, this is not the, it's not the win everybody thinks it is. I know people are like, oh my God. Well, it is interesting in a way. So the case is being sent back to the grand jury. And what do we know from this? Well, the case is going back to the grand jury. And the judge in this case put out an order. And it is an interesting thing because you wouldn't think about, well, how does this work? Well, why didn't he just dismiss it? Well, every state's different. Every state has its own rules. And we talked about this when it happened back in April. The court took under advisement from the defendants, including John Eastman, motions to remand for the grand jury. And these rules permit the defendants to challenge the findings of the grand jury if they were denied a substantial procedural right. Now, this is something that happens in Alec Baldwin had some issues like this too. Remember, some states give you procedural rights in front of the grand jury as a defendant. Not every state does. You have no constitutional right federally. But some states give you constitutional protections and state level protections in front of grand juries. And it's the ability sometimes to present evidence or require evidence to be presented. Now, what are they arguing here? Well, it's interesting how they did this. So they argue the case must be remanded due to the government's failure to instruct the grand jury as to the applicable provisions of the Electoral Count Act of 1887. And that's the act that the ECA, that federally, the state does not dispute the ECA was not provided to the grand jury, but argues that portions were provided via proportion of, and Kenneth Chesbrough, you guys remember him? He is one of the people who pled out in Georgia, and he pled out to diversion. His memorandum interview and a letter from other parties. So they say a review of the grand jury determines that the central to the defendant's claims, they were acting lawfully and without an intent to defraud. And the state confirmed that at the time of the grand jury proceedings, it was aware that some of the defendants claimed their actions were authorized by the Electoral College Act. And the Electoral College Act was discussed during the presentation to the grand jury. And this is the interesting part. The grand jury asked the state's witness about the requirements of the ECA. However, the text and the actual provisions were never provided. Now, this is where they get to the part. The prosecutor has a duty to instruct the grand jury on all of the law applicable to the facts of a case. So this duty includes providing instructions on justification defenses that, based on the evidence presented to the grand jury, are relevant to the jurors determining whether a probable cause exists. Now, this is not something in every state. That's not something in every state that exists. Notice, guys, this is from the Arizona Supreme Court. That is not a thing in every state. You will not get that kind of protection in every state. So it is interesting. Like I said, guys, every state does some interesting stuff here. Every state does some interesting stuff here. So what's going to happen here? Well, so the court says that. And they say due process compels a prosecutor to make a fair and impartial presentation to the grand jury. And it requires a prosecutor to instruct on all the applicable law, even if the grand jury does not make any request for additional legal instructions. And they say because the state failed to provide the Electoral College Act to the grand jury, the court finds that the defendants were denied a substantial procedural right as guaranteed by Arizona law. And they say, although there are additional grounds for remand, the court's not going to address those because the ECA argument takes care of it and it's going to get remanded all the way, so the prosecutor has to redo it. So what does this mean ultimately? So they're going back to the grand jury. Now, does this mean that it's over? No, the grand jury can re-indict. And the grand jury can be like, yeah, whatever, you know, we explained it, we're good. Don't worry, here's your indictment. So they're not done. They're not done. But it is an interesting thing that happens here. As I said, I found it very interesting reading through this and doing some reading on it earlier today. So I thought it was interesting how they do it. But remember, guys, not every state gives you these protections. But if they're fully informed, they might decide not to indict. Yes. Yes. And some of you guys are saying, well, wait, they're using CNN. Why can't they? It's a news article. They can use it as other information. There's not really a limit to what the prosecutor can use in a grand jury as long as it's reliable evidence. Now, I know you're going to say, well, CNN's not reliable. Well, for a court, they will consider it that way. So they will consider it that way. Could this delay save them under statute of limitations? No. It won't rewind. Like the cases, they got indicted within the statute of limitations. This doesn't count as like an uncharging. They just have to go back and like take care of this. It's procedural. So no, this won't kill them like that. It won't kill the charges. And even let's say even like it'd be, you know, Ohio, for the minimum time for a felony 6 years. I'm sure Arizona's got a similar type of statute. I'm sure that they're okay. Now, they should win. They should win. And they should be able to walk out of the grand jury with a no bill. But I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see. Why is the grand jury needed instead of just the prosecutor's decision? The grand jury is needed because if you're securing an indictment, you can't just file charges in every state. So there are some states where the prosecutor, like Fannie Willis, she can file charges if she wants to. She can, like Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse was charged on an information, meaning the prosecutor filed charges against him and proceeded to, try to lock him up in a box for the rest of his life. Not every state allows that. Many states actually, like including Ohio, for example, we have a very robust protection against criminal charges against people. So, for example, the grand jury is the only way you can be charged with a felony offense. You cannot be charged with a felony offense through information unless you consent to it in writing. There are times where that might be proper and it might make sense, But generally speaking, if a grand jury cannot indict you, you can't be charged with a felony in Ohio. So the idea is the grand jury was already sought. So they have to go back to the grand jury. They have to go back and fix these issues because the grand jury is the one who decided to charge them. Let's see here. What do you people are pinging me right now, and it's getting a little ridiculous. So that is, I hope that makes sense, Funky Monkey. So they have to convince a whole ass jury every time they want to charge someone with a felony. Well, the way a grand jury works is a grand jury is not a normal trial jury. A grand jury is a smaller number. You know, for example, here in Ohio, it's 9 people. You only have to convince 7 out of the 9 to indict. You don't need unanimous verdicts, so it's a little different. So grand juries are a little different how it works. And grand juries, I mean, the way you present a case, a grand jury presentation can take 5 minutes. And then the grand jury can come back, like you walk out of the room and they come knock on the door like 30 seconds later saying, yeah, we indicted. Sometimes they come back and say, we have questions. We need more information. You know, grand juries are not hard. Yeah, the grand jury does not work the same as a trial jury. So, but yes, grand juries almost always generally agree, but that's because it's a one-sided affair. In most states, it's a completely one-sided affair. It's a one-sided affair in many states. In Arizona, it's not. In New Mexico, it's not. But there's no right in Ohio. I can't go screaming to the judge, they're not going to give our side of the story or read favorable law. There's no obligation for any of that. I go into court filing a motion, the court's going to go, lol, denied. So who makes up grand juries? Grand juries are people from your local population. So, you know, in most states, it's done by county basis or judicial districts. You're going to have people just like the jury pool for a regular trial. They're going to haul people in and they're going to do a voir dire and they'll pick a number of people to be the grand jury. So, Funky Monkey says that's a very sensible protection. Well, not every state allows for that. Not every state protects people that way. Many states you can be charged by the prosecutor alone, which is not good. Not good. If in Ohio, it's something that's been around since 1851 when the Constitution was rewritten. If you can't get the grand jury to indict, you shouldn't be allowed to charge the guy. And I think that's a very fair position. And you're asking, so Ohio doesn't have the problem my state has where they hand out felonies like candy to get people to plead. Oh, no. There's depending on what county you're in, they dole out felonies left and right. That's not a problem. Bill says, do you get called for jury duty and it ends up you're on the grand jury? Well, you generally get a summons notifying you're being requested for the grand jury because you're not showing up at the same time that juries are called. The grand jury gets called separately. You're not part of like the big jury pool. You're called separately up to be on the grand jury. Because remember, the grand jury is done in secret. So you're not called up in front of everybody else. Yes. Jury duty is one of the greatest responsibilities. And I'd say it's an honor that a free man has. I'd agree. Is the grand jury led by a grand wizard? No. No. So, can Scandinavian prudes be on the grand juries? Yes. Yes. They can be. I'm not in charge of the leaderboard. That is a YouTube thing, guys. That's a YouTube thing. I'm not in charge of that. YouTube's doing that. That's some beta stuff they're rolling out. I am not in charge of the leaderboard stuff. So, the only neat thing I can do is put comments up on screen. That's the only thing I can do, chat. When you guys start commenting, I'm the only one who can do this. This is the only thing I could change. So, I could turn it off. I don't know how to turn it off. If there's a way to turn it off, I will turn it off. It's beta, all right. I can turn it off. All right, I will turn it off. This I know I could turn off. But I know I could turn off the community stuff. And I will. So, yes, Ag is crying because he's in 8th place. I'm sure he is. Suffer, Ag. Crybaby. Okay, here. Now, moving on, chat. We're finished up. We're getting to the home stretch here, but we got some good stuff. We got some important stuff here. We are now getting to another court case that was actually interesting. It happened. It was very quiet. And not a lot of people heard about it. And it involves a state representative from Maine. And it involves Laurel Libby. And Laurel Libby, back in February, posted this up on Facebook. As the boomer, to her boomer constituency, she pointed out that there was a transgender person, a man who pretended to be a woman, competed in the boys' pole vault when he was a boy, when he was a real boy, and he placed 5th. Well, within a year, 2 years ago, he tied for 5th place. And this year, took 1st place in the Maine State Class Championship for pole vault. Surprise! Shocker, I know. Once again, ladies, we are better at being women than you are at being women. So, because of this, and this is what she posted. Now, Laurel Libby is a real woman. She's not a real boy. She's a real woman. She was censured by the Maine legislator. And the Maine legislator said, you have to apologize for what you did. And until she apologized, she was denied the right to participate on the floor of the Maine House. Well, Trump won. He didn't lose his nuts. He just claimed he's a woman now. He didn't have to get, in high school, they don't make you snip, snip. So he got to keep his nuts. Now, his dignity, who knows? Now, from here, what happened? Well, she was denied her right to participate as a member of the Maine Assembly. So she appealed up all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. And it's very interesting what happened here. So she won, and the Supreme Court granted emergency relief. She was barred from speaking, and I forgot to mention, and or voting until she apologized. And she eventually appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. And what happened? Well, this is off the shadow docket. And just like a lot of the things we've been seeing lately, all the immigration cases, these are when you seek emergency petitions. These are being done where the court makes rulings on things without having oral arguments, and briefings get held. And then how that works. So this is what's called the shadow docket. Ooh. Well, and remember, because each Supreme Court justice has a circuit in which they ride circuit and they supervise and they get their circuit assignments, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is the one in charge of the First Circuit, which is Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Puerto Rico, and Rhode Island. So this emergency appeal came to her, and this was presented to her, and she presented it, and it was referred to the court, and she referred it to the court saying, hey, guys, why don't you take a look at it? Because she could grant it and then let the court take a look at it, or she could have said no. But it was, and by her, referred to the court and is granted pending disposition of the appeal to the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit. So what happened? Well, Justice Sotomayor would deny the application. Justice Jackson dissented from the granting of the injunction. She said, I would deny the application. So what does that mean? Well, ultimately, it was 7-2. That means Justice Kagan went along with Barrett, Roberts, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and your boy, Clarence Thomas. So, Agus saying you just need 4 justices to grant it, right? No. You're thinking of certiorari. Certiorari is a different thing. You're thinking of certiorari. We're not talking about certiorari. This is the emergency injunction. You know, the emergency stay, all those things that we've been dealing with the immigration and Article 2 cases. Those things that have been ongoing. So this is where Justice Jackson now speaks, and she dissents, and she says, they're seeking an appeal from the All Writs Act, and they're seeking a writ. And they say the only source, the court's authority to issue such an injunction. And she says, and under our well-established rules, relief of this sort is not a matter of right, but to the discretion sparingly exercised. And said, we have long recognized this injunction is only appropriate when critical and exigent circumstances exist necessitating the intervention in aid of our jurisdiction, and the applicant's relief is indisputably clear. Well, I think there's some cases we could argue it's not 100% clear recently, but hey, that's just me. Now, she says the applicants have failed to show there are no critical and exigent circumstances. I don't know, not being allowed to vote and represent your people is pretty big freaking deal. Pretty big deal. And she says, and what I have elsewhere called a line jumping justification, I could think of some cases in the past couple of months that are probably line jumping too, that you were okay with. Isn't it interesting how this works? She says the First Circuit is moving quickly. Oral arguments are scheduled within a few weeks. Oh, can we try this with all the immigration cases? Huh? Can we try it with all the Article 2 cases and the government cutting down staffing? Can we get all that to work that way too? Well, I'm sure Justice Jackson will say, well, that's different. I'm sure it's different. Justice Jackson. Meanwhile, the applicants have not asserted there are any significant legislative votes scheduled in the upcoming weeks. Well, what's a significant legislative vote? I don't know. Like, I think all the votes are important. If I voted for somebody, I want them to vote on every goddamn thing. I don't want them fucking off. That's just me. Which her vote is particularly impact the outcome, or will they otherwise suffer any concrete and imminent significant harm while the lower court considers the matter? She's not allowed to participate. Her constituents have been effectively disbarred from having their ability to seek political recourse. That's not a problem. Screaming about due process left, right, and center, and it's like your right to representation. The democratic underpinnings of our constitutional republic here. Well, that's different. That doesn't count. Listen to the gall of this woman. They haven't satisfied the other certiorari factors like needing to resolve a circuit split. Instead, they request highly fact-specific error correction concerning a question of first impression that is unlikely to reoccur. Really? I can see this happening more and more and more as we go. Wait till it starts happening in red states where they start censuring people. I'm sure she's just going to sit there and just be quiet when that happens. And she says, we have long recognized that to avoid end runs around the ordinary process, emergency relief should not be granted. The court would not been unlikely to grant review of the matter in any event. Well, yeah, except that's not how this has happening. Denying emergency relief does not satisfy the usual certiorari factors. It also avoids creating perverse incentives. And she says, why would any applicant who thinks the lower courts are mistaken wait for those courts' final word on an issue if the real-time error on the emergency docket is readily available? Yeah, like all the people screaming for immigration charges. And like we've done how many of these already now? How many times has this happened in the past 6 months? It's like she forgets what's happened since November. It's like when she says it's happened for November. They also fail to represent their right to relief is indisputably clear. Now, this is an argument she does make, which I think can be valid because there are times where legislators have the right to set up their own rules, just like the House of Representatives when they censure and remove people, or the Senate, they're in charge of their own rules. The rules were adopted long before the events here took place. They contemplate stripping a legislative member of the ability to vote as a sanction for certain ethical violations. Well, this one was just speech. And the House determined she violated those rules when she engaged in behavior that a majority of the House determined may endanger a minor. Not even would or has, but may. Entirely speculative. Yeah, well, remember, we had a vote on it. We had a vote. We voted on it. That is one of the scariest that's one of the scariest sentences in the English language. We voted on something. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we voted on as a society. That doesn't mean it's good. And she says whether the censure and resulting sanctions violate her rights or those of her constituents raise many difficult questions. She says, what are the limits on a legislature's ability to bind its members? Do federal courts have the authority to determine those rules are improper? Does a violated representative's First Amendment rights be subject to sanctions under such rules? What rights does the federal Constitution give? Does a federal court have the power to enjoin state representatives? Well, really, we're worried about federal courts having the power to enjoin people. That's interesting. Like, that's so funny now you bring that up. That's so funny and weird. May the court enjoin legislative employees? I don't know. She says, this court has neither addressed nor answered most of these questions. And she says, others implicate tensions in our precedent that lack an obvious resolution. It said it's possible the applicants have the better of the arguments and the merits. But in the absence of binding precedent on any of these issues, their right to relief is not clear, let alone indisputably so. Once again, that hasn't stopped you in the past 6 months, sweetheart. It has not stopped you. So it's very interesting how she does that. And she says, not long ago, this court treaded carefully with respect to exercising its power at the request of a party claiming an emergency. And she said, the opinions are legion in which individual justices reviewing and requesting in chambers decline to intervene, reiterating that such power should be sparingly and only in the most critical and exigent circumstances. Yeah. So those days are no more. Yes. Irony does have a name. It's like you realized it. It's like you realized that, sweetheart. Yes. We aren't following the rules anymore. No shit, bitch. No shit. I can point to within the past 6 months where we haven't been following the damn rules. I mean, wow. 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 Today's court barely pauses to acknowledge these important threshold limitations on the exercise of its own authority. Really? Once again, the nuts on this woman. It opts instead to dole out error correction as it sees fit, regardless of the lack of any exigency, and even when the applicant's claims raise significant legal issues that warrant thorough evaluation by the lower courts that are dutifully considering them. Ah! Funny how that goes. Funny how that goes. I think this clear departure from past practice is both inequitable and unwise. Well, gee, I wonder who caused that to happen. For one thing, the court's failure to articulate clear standards for when emergency relief is appropriate makes it difficult to confidently conclude that any such standards are actually being referenced and applied even-handedly. Yeah, I mean, yes, this has turned into a complete... This one part, she's right. She's 100% right. There is no clear answer. But given the schizophrenic way the court has handled things, Chief Justice Roberts, this is your fault, John Roberts. This is your fault. This is your fault, Amy Coney Barrett, having this fetish of not wanting to deal with interlocutory issues. This is oh, she's been writing like the bulk of this. Well, she's only been right now, but you change this to about some heckin' immigrants, some heckin' immigratinos, and her tune changes immediately. So that's the problem here. Yes, she's telling the truth now, but it's like, if Laura Libby was a Venezuelan, she'd be like, nope, we're gonna fix this right now. If that's all she had done, if she had gone, oh, by the way, my client's a Venezuelan immigrant. Granted. that would be. That would be too, Luke. So As a practical matter, it's plainly prudent to preserve our emergency docket for applicants who demonstrate they truly need our help now. In the absence of that showing, we can and should allow even applicants with credible threats or claims to litigate their arguments in lower courts. The watering down of the court standards for granting emergency relief is, to me, an unfortunate development. It is. It is. We learned it from you. We learned it from you. After all, the manner in which we handle applications on a short fuse without benefit of full briefing is hardly a model for sound decision-making. Yes! Like you acknowledge that. Yes. Yes. At the very least, by lowering the bar for granting emergency relief, the court itself will bear responsibility for the resulting systemic disruption as a surge in requests for intervention at earlier and earlier stages of ongoing lower court proceedings with greater and greater frequency will undoubtedly follow. Yes, it's almost like you should stop courts from also getting the ability to do nationwide injunctions. It's kind of like you brought this on yourself. And you're like, oh my God, I let things get out of control. Oh no, who could have foreseen this? Oh no. Yeah, no duh. But this is what you wanted. You wanted this. And Luke says, sending people to a foreign supermax with a hot day's worth of notice and no opportunity to be heard feels mildly different. Oh, I agree. And as I said, sending people to El Salvador is a rendition at the end of the day. I said that from the beginning. This is a rendition. I don't like that. There's a lot of issues that haven't been resolved. Like, how long do those people, like, let's say they're actually the bad man. How long do those bad men stay there? Like, because it's even worse than Guantanamo. Because even the guys from Guantanamo Bay went home at some point. Most of them. So, yes, it's even worse. But once again, it's just the way this has all been done. That's probably the one that made sense. Like, they had to get involved to stop that. But a lot of these other things, I don't think were necessarily proper exercises of the authority there. So, but it's almost like, wow, you haven't stopped the injunctions from occurring. So you've encouraged this problem where nationwide injunctions are forcing people to seek drastic remedy. Well, maybe you should stop people from getting nationwide injunctions. Just thought, Katanji. Just a thought. Maybe if you don't let people fuck with the system, other people won't have to fuck with the system too. Just what do I know? What do I know? I'm some schmucky lawyer from Ohio. I'm some schmucky lawyer from Ohio. What do I know? What do I know? What do I know? So she got her ability to go back into court or go back into the house. So that is some news there. That is an update there. We have two other things, guys, and we're going to talk about these real quick, and then we'll get to the final thing tonight about the National Firearms Act. So if you guys were not aware, last night there was a shooting of 2 Israeli embassy workers in Washington, D.C., and they were gunned down outside of a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C., which, like, shocker, that's where they're going. There was some sort of event there. And I'm not going to lie, seeing Janine Pirro, Judge Janine from fucking Fox News on TV, standing there as the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., is so fucking cringe, is absolutely garbage. I mean, she was always awful on Fox News, but like, yeah, this is anyway, he shot the 2 Israeli embassy workers. They're pointing out it's a death penalty eligible offense, and they were a couple, Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram, and they were shot outside the U.S. Capitol Jewish Museum. And they were killed by a guy named Elias Rodriguez from Chicago. And yeah, this is actually a good courtroom sketch artist. So unlike everybody else, this is not the Diddy sketch artist. So what happened here? You guys are saying, hide the smile. So he showed up and shot them and was screaming about free Palestine. I mean, for some reason, he wanted to get Palestine with equal or greater value, which, remember that, chat. If you buy a Palestine of equal or greater value, you get a second Palestine for free. Luke says, why is the defendant sitting perpendicular to the bench? I'm sure he was sitting at a table and turned that way. So from there, what happened? Well, he is he's known as he is involved with the digital repository for the Black experience, because yes, Elias Rodriguez, yes, is the Black name. But he is involved in he has a bachelor's in English from the University of Illinois at Chicago, and he is an avid leftist who is socialist and wants to free Palestine, and went out there and did that on behalf of Palestine. So, yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. I'm sure this is not going to spiral out of fucking control, and it's not going to be a very weird setup there. So, yeah, that's totally not going to happen. That's totally not going to happen. We're just going to have to wait and see, you guys. We're just going to have to wait and see. But yes, he was arrested screaming "Free Palestine" as the police caught him. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be, yeah, just, yeah. There is also an update on the Wisconsin judge, you guys. The Wisconsin judge case where she obstructed the federal officials. So there have been, there's footage now that's been released of her in the hallway getting involved in this. So this is the interesting thing here.
Back to speak with other agents further to a case.
So this is Eduardo Flores Ruiz, the guy who's supposed to be getting arrested. And they're walking through the courthouse, and you can see what happens from here.
He meets his attorney in the hallway and walks towards Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan's courtroom.
And those guys 100% look like fucking feds. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little disappointed in this attorney. You didn't look at these dudes right here in the corner and think they're feds. They're feds. Like, you can see feds from a mile away. Like, feds are pretty easy to get a hold of. Feds are pretty easy to get a hold of. Like, you could find feds. It's not hard.
Along the way, he passes plainclothes federal agents who are sitting on a bench. They are there to detain him.
Yeah.
After Flores Ruiz walks by, the agents turn to each other and appear to confirm his identity amongst themselves. But a few moments later, Judge Dugan and another judge approach the agents sitting on the bench. A criminal complaint against Dugan later said she was alerted to their presence by a court official. That complaint says during this interaction, Dugan and the agents disagreed over the type of warrant they had to arrest Flores Ruiz. According to the complaint, Dugan ordered the agents to go to the chief judge's office. Video shows her.
Now, some of you might say, why did they do that? Why did they follow her order? Part of their, they're told, like, not cause a scene, don't cause problems, and fine, whatever you say, judge, we're still going to arrest this fucking guy. So that's part of the reason why they did it. And I'm sure she was just all like, yeah, you need to go away. No orange man here. I'm sure that's how it sounded as she did this.
Pointing them through a double door. She then turns back to speak with other agents further down the hall and orders them through the doors as well. Shortly after that, with the agents gone from the hallway, Eduardo Flores Ruiz and his...
Now, I said this before. Good job on the defense attorney doing what she could to get her client out of there. That's her job, to get her guy out of trouble. If I was in a situation like that, for example, let's say I had a case, that was me, I'd figure, like, can I get him out of here? Hey, there's ICE guys outside. What can I do to get him out of here? Is there a way I can leave? Is there another door that hasn't been stopped? I don't blame the attorney for doing that at all. The attorney's doing her job.
Attorney exit into the hallway through a different door. As they walk down the hall toward the elevators, they pass another plainclothes federal agent. Neither they nor Judge Dugan seem to have noticed at the time. That agent motions to another to follow Flores Ruiz. Security video shows Flores Ruiz exiting through a basement exit. Upstairs on the 6th floor, the other agents have left the chief judge's office and worked their way downstairs. Flores Ruiz left the building onto 9th Street. Videos of the street shows the agents catching up to him. Flores Ruiz runs across 10th Street while trying to get away, but the agents catch him and arrest him.
As he gets a flare-ed. So, and then that makes sense there. That makes sense. So, Iman Rez is okay, but she might end up like her. Well, they haven't charged the attorney. And I think that they know better than to charge the attorney. The attorney's doing her job. The judge actively obstructed. So, the reporter's voice is so nasal, yes. Oh, so there you go. Charge him with jaywalking when they don't have to. He's got an aflera. Yeah, he runs. You think he's going to sit there and get deported? You think he's not going to get arrested? That's not how that works. You know, when people are chasing you, you don't just give up, especially you're going to get a flare out of the country. Funky Monkey says, what if he got shot? Well, how would he get shot? Running away, that's not a felony. So, SB Seller says the attorney is following the judge's orders at that point. I don't know how that would work specifically there, but yeah. How would that judge feel if Pisa ran and got shot by the cops? Well, he just running. I'm sure she would just say that the evil Trump made this happen and it's his responsibility. So, I thought if you ran, you're a liability. No, just running away doesn't mean you get shot. We don't do that anymore. This isn't like 1901. You can't just shoot people for running away. So, yeah, you're not allowed to just do that. You're not allowed just to shoot people for running away. The courts frown upon that. It's not legal. You have to be a presently violent situation for that to happen. That's not how that works. I'm just telling you, chat, that is not how this works. So don't worry. All right, here. Hold on. Why is that was weird. That was weird. That was kind of funny and weird, chat. Not in a good way. Not in a good way. Hold on here. I gotta fix something. All right. Okay, so with that said, we are on to the final story tonight. The National Firearms Act. The National Firearms Act, the NFA. You know it, and you absolutely hate it. Which governs the regulation of machine guns, silencers, any other weapons, short-barrel rifles, short-barrel shotguns, and destructive devices. Well, we're going to get to this. As it says, silencers soon, maybe tax-free, bitch! That's right. They may be tax-free soon. Soon. So let's see here what actually happened. Let's see what actually happened. Well, we need to go to this first. This is the Big Beautiful Reconciliation Bill. As it's called, it is part of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It is a massive reconciliation bill with tons and tons of things in it. And most importantly, it passed the House today, 215 to 214. 215 to 214. And what's happened? Well, oh God, guys, it's so close. It's so close. This is what's there. This is what's there right now. The reduction of excise taxes on firearm silencers. It's close, Chad. It's close. And it says that Section 5811. Now, you might say, well, what's Section 5811? Well, that's not 18 USC 5811. It's 26 USC 5811. And remember, chat, this goes back to the tax code, because remember, the NFA is a tax at its heart. It's under Title 26 of the United States Code. And it talks about the transfer taxes. Because remember, you are paying a tax. And when you get your little stamp from the NFA, the stamp is proof you have paid the tax. And it says, there shall be levy collected and paid on firearms transferred at tax at the rate of $200 for each firearm transferred, except the tax on any firearm classified as any other weapon shall be at the rate of $5 for each transfer. So yes, for any other weapon, it's $5. That's why there's many people out there who collect and buy any other weapons. It's a cheap transfer. There's also some different rates on short-barreled shotguns. But for machine guns, silencers, short-barrel rifles, and destructive devices, it's $200. Okay. Well, remember, and guys, remember, what's a firearm? Well, a firearm means all of these things, including any silencer. Remember, silencers are considered firearms under federal law. Okay. Well, there you go. So what do we do from here? What do we do from here? Well, the rate shall be levied, collected, and paid on a firearms transfer to the tax rate of $5 for each firearm transfer in the case of a weapon classified as any other weapon under 5845E. Remember, that's 26 USC 5845. Excuse me. So you're like, all right, well, that's not bad. That's not bad. And well, you can handle that. Okay. All right. But number two, chat. Number two. $0 for each firearm transferred in the case of a silencer, as defined in 5845A7. Meaning silencers will be $0. We're almost there, chat. We are almost there. Now, here's some problems. Is this an abolishment of the NFA? No. Does this mean fire silencers might get deregulated? Yeah. So because it's a firearm, how would this work? Well, as of right now, if this passed the Senate as is, and because this is a bill of reconciliation, it needs a simple majority. How does that work? Well, the Senate were to pass it. This becomes law. There's no longer a tax on it. Now, that doesn't relieve you of the ability or notification of the feds to notify them if you're transferring across state lines. You'll still have to do that, I would argue, because it hasn't been removed from the NFA. It's still an NFA item, but it's with a $0 transfer tax. Okay, well, that's great. It doesn't remove... I thought the version that just got put back in today is the one that actually removes it from the NFA. Well, I don't know if that's going to survive. As of right now, these are tax-free. That's guaranteed. There is some idea that this might be completely done, but we don't know yet. We don't know how it's going to shake out. Torgus, I think you're wrong about this. If it got added in there, I was reading through GOA and I didn't see if that changed. I'll double check it, but I didn't see GOA talking about it here. All right. Well, hold on. Time out. Let me see. Actually, yeah, you're right. I fucked up, chat. I fucked it up. There we go. I fucked it up. Yeah, they're out. Suppressors are out. Of the NFA. Is that going to happen? I don't know if this is going to get... I did fuck up. Yeah. Is this going to get out of it? That sounds great, but I don't know if the Senate's going to go for it. Remember, guns are icky. Will we get them? Yeah, Swizgar, I agree. It's in there. I agree, guys. Yes. Daddy messed up. We get it. Daddy messed up. Call your congressman. Try to get this well, you got to call your senator now because it's out of the House. Call your senator. Is this Senate's never going to pass it? Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just telling you, it's. I see the $0 tax coming back in. I don't know if we're gonna get this. I don't know if we're gonna get this. I don't know if we're gonna get this now. I'd like to see it. So we will see. We will see. The ghost of that Jewish couple are screwing with me. Well, it'd be nice if it worked. It'd be nice if it worked. Because here's the thing. If you got rid of suppressors off the NFA, there'd be like gajillions of them. You go to the hardware store and buy one. If you didn't live in a shitty state like California. Somebody actually brought up a very good question here. Richie says, how much does a silencer cost on average? It depends, but generally speaking, you're spending at least $500 minimum for anything reliable. And for the higher grade of suppressor or silencer, it's like a silencer that's full auto rated, you're looking at over $1,000 minimum. And there are more and more advancements in suppressor technology and silencer technology, how they design the baffles. So the baffles are, oh, here, I'll show it. Because we can't show silencers. YouTube will probably shit itself. The way that the way the baffles work on a suppressor, that is all kinds of technology that, you know, we are, you need to take a look at. And so the way a silencer works, and they are silencers, chat. Just remember they're silencers. All right. So here's the muzzle. Here's the back end. And this is the part that the barrel comes through and there's threading and it screws onto the suppressor. So this is the barrel. As the bullet comes this way, there are these things basically called baffles. Now, the old school way was they were just metal, basically washers with holes in them. Or if you go back far enough, they were pieces of rubber you had to shoot through. And what happens is all of the gases from the explosion curl off into them. And as it goes on, they cool off and get cold in here, which suppresses the noise. So that's how a suppressor works. But these baffles, there is massive engineering and geometry, all kinds of things that go on to it now. So it's very important. It's very important, the technology involved. There are ones that can shoot full auto. There are ones that are rated for certain calibers. So, for example, a suppressor that works on a 22 is going to be a lot more fragile. It's not going to be built to the same standards. But yes, if this gets delisted, you're going to see a proliferation of cheap silencers, because you know what? Who cares if the silencer only lasts 1,000 rounds? You could buy a new one for $100. You could buy a silencer for every gun you own. That'll be great. It would be great. A $0 tax isn't a bad idea either, though. I mean, I wish it would, but I still don't think we're going to get that. But the $0 tax, I think that's probably what we're going to end up with. That's still better than nothing. But you're still going to have to wait forever. So we'll see. We shall see. We shall see. I don't know guns, but you'd be happy for me. Yeah, I'd buy a silencer for every gun I had if I did that. So call your senators up. Call your senators up. Wouldn't it be profitable for me to double down? I don't know. Maybe. Trump wants his oil filters and some adapters. Yeah, oil filters are actually a very good suppressor. So you can make your own. You can make your own. Yes, the 3D printers will be going brrr. Yes. Joe says, how often would I need to change the washers in steel wool? Well, that's a traditional old way to do it, is having steel wool absorb all the pressure. So you can use, yeah, Stacy, oil filters. They have the threading on it's a common threading that they make adapters that you can thread onto a gun. And then you thread an oil filter onto the end of the adapter, and you have a big oil filter on the front of your gun that can handle all the pressure, and you can shoot through it. Because an oil filter is just the filter goop, the filter inside of it, and then a thin metal shell. And they're pretty tough. And they last for a while. They're not built like a purpose-built suppressor, but they're actually pretty quiet. They're pretty effective. So, do you register the oil filter? Well, that's how it depends on how people are doing it. But yeah, you're going to have to register something. It becomes an issue. Draw flow through baffle geometry. Well, we're not doing that. Robert Glock says 22s are not that loud to start off, though. Yeah, but you're allowed, make it quieter. Hearing protection. You could shoot without earmuffs on. That'd be a lot of fun. Blade says, I used to tell my friends the suppressors were filled with water. That is actually an old way you do one. It's called running them wet. You could run them with oil or grease inside of them, and that can absorb some of the energy. That's a very old school way of doing it. That's not a common thing anymore. But running it wet was not a uncommon thing. So you wouldn't necessarily use water because water could leak out the front if you held it down. But like oil or grease was like an acceptable way of doing it for a while. Show us your 3D print them. I will when it's the chance. We just use Flowmasters out here in the swamps. Yes, here's the thing. They're still considered firearms, so you will still have to fill out a 4473. You'll still have to pay a excise tax on them, like every other gun. But you're gonna have to comply with all of the laws. So if you want to go across state lines, as of now, the ATF has not said you don't have to notify them. Although we'll see how that all works. We'll see how the ATF treats it because it's not clear. It's not clear how the ATF would do that. So you can get a potato for like 50 cents a pound. Yes. Blaine's Escape saying a $200 tax on a $500 to $1,000 product is asinine. Well, remember, it was $200 in 1934, and $200 in 1934 was a shitload of money. This has never been adjusted for inflation. If it was adjusted for inflation, it'd be like $1,900 for a tax. So they've never adjusted it. City says, I didn't miss the show. Is there locals tonight? Yes, there will be. So, yes, even South Africa, yes. Most countries around the world do not regulate suppressors. They're considered hearing protection in Europe, especially. It's considered poor form and uncouth in a lot of places to shoot without suppressors. Gunshots are loud and noise pollution. So it's considered uncouth in a lot of places to shoot unsuppressed weapons. So could you have a Baldo for a grip? Sure. The adapter, I've never messed with one, so I didn't know that. Is that it goes on the adapter? Okay, well, the adapter gets registered. All right. Never actually used one, so. Yes, you can use petroleum jelly to run wet. Yes, that's another option. Keypad said, check my DMs. What? What do you got? Well, there's only so much oil filter stuff I can do right now. That's YouTube will kill me on it. Bob says, what if we only have electric vehicles and oil filters never exist? Okay, that's a problem. I have doubts because of the Luigi thing. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. Like I said, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what they do. It hasn't been about the $200 in at least a decade. People like the regulation. Yes, but it's still $200 is a problem. And if you want to set up a trust, because some people do that after a while, they want to put all their guns in a trust. Well, now you have to have a $200 transfer for all your NFA items. And like, if you own 25, 30 NFA items, it's like $6,000. So, did I hear about the bad news about Scott Adams? Yeah, I heard he has cancer, which sucks. Hope he gets better. Taylor Cook said, I got my last can in 3 days. Well, that's good, but there's still people who have had to wait shitloads of time. How about KY jelly? Yeah, no, you don't do that. You don't do that. The immutable trust thing is the way to go from the start. You mean the irrevocable trust? Well, I don't know if an irrevocable trust is the best idea. That depends on your state, but a revocable trust isn't a bad idea to do things. It's a little bit more of a hassle, but nowadays it's the true benefits are not, they don't exist like the way they used to. and it hasn't been that way since like 2017. So there are some benefits to the trust, but they're not as much as they used to be. Benjamin saying, so a threaded barrel isn't legal. The threaded barrel is 100% legal. That's got a threaded barrel on it right now with a thread protector on it. It's 100% legal. Yeah, it isn't illegal because there are illegal adapters. Well, even if I don't have a pistol silencer, I can have a threaded barrel. Now, if I had a threaded barrel and an adapter and an oil filter all sitting around and I didn't have a $200 tax stamp paid, that would be a problem. But just having that alone right here, that's not a problem. So the DC shooter apparently loves Hassan and Luigi. I'm sure he does. Mad says, wait, you pay that tax if you inherit firearms? No, you do not. What you do if you have NFA items is you fill out what's called a Form 5. That is a tax-free transfer. The ATF has a vested interest in making sure things stay papered and that records are held and maintained. And that is a way they do a tax-free transfer. Because otherwise, yeah, people would just say, fuck it, and not pay the tax and just keep stuff. So they are terrified of that idea. So that's why tax-free transfers exist. If you can show that, it's actually a very easy process. Like if somebody you know dies and they in their will, they have like an Uzi and I will you, Mad Rhetoric, my Uzi when I die. If that's in like your dad's will. That's easy enough. You go to the ATF and say, my dad's dead. Here's the will that says it goes to me. Here's me. Here's my paperwork. Here are my fingerprints. Here's my picture. And here's my Form 5. And they go, okay, cool. Tax-free transfer. And then after a while, you get your stamp back and you're good to go. They have a very big incentive because they're terrified of that shit just getting unpapered and loose in the wild. They process those. They don't fuck around with them either. They actually take care of that stuff pretty good. So, I take it good says every gun I own was passed through the family, never paid money or filled out paper for any of it. Well, I doubt I doubt any of the things going through your family were automatic weapons, or silencers or short barrel rifles. That's going to start happening more and more now. But for right now, that hasn't happened. Pitchlock says you heard it, chat. Sean promises a Uzi. Well, I won't. If I give it away before I die, you get nothing. It's called extinguishment. That interest has been extinguished. So, and yes, guys, I completely fucked up earlier with the oil filter shit. I'm sorry, it's a little retarded of me. Benito Salazar says threaded barrels are illegal in my state. Well, yeah, a lot of states stuff is weird about what's illegal. In some states have banned threaded barrels, but not most of them. Not most of them. Let's see here. Oh, somebody else. Yeah, I completely messed up. You're right. You don't need to notify for suppressors, just machine guns, short barrel rifles, and short barrel shotguns, and DDs. What does it mean to put your weapons in a trust? Winston, it's just like a trust. Like a trust, you can put your house in. Let's say you owned a $10 million house, you could put your house in a trust. If you had a lot of money, you could put your money in a trust. A trust that'll protect assets. A trust is a legal document that controls and protects assets of some kind. And the neat part is with let's say, for example, you owned an Uzi or an AK-47. The reason why you would use a trust is if you happen to own it by yourself as Winston, you owned an AK-47 and you had a tax stamp in a Form 4 with your name on it that says Winston's the owner of this AK-47. He's paid taxes on it. It's legit. Let's say you have a brother and your brother wants to take it to the range. You have to go with him. It can't leave your presence. Now, like if you're sitting on the range and like your brother turns around and goes back to the car to because it's an AK, he's gonna sit it on the tailgate and smack it with a rock to fix something because it's an AK. That's legal. He can't leave your basically your physical presence or your conscious presence. So he can't take it and run home. you have to go with it. That's what happens when you own it personally. When you own it in a trust, you might be the trustee of the trust, but you can have beneficiaries in a trust. And the beneficiaries can have access to trust property at any time you see fit as the trustee creating the trust. So you could have your brother, your dad, your best friend. You could have all kinds. You could, anybody and everybody you let in the trust, you could have them have access to it. As long as they're in the trust and they're listed as a party in the trust, they could have access to the items. You could make them an officer in the trust, a fellow trustee. You know, they could have access to the items. They could use the items. How would that work then? Well, and at that point, if they are going to have access to the items, this is where it becomes an issue. Everybody who has access has to then send in their fingerprints and paperwork to the ATF. So really, the trust allows you to be fluid in how things work. That's the big thing. The second part is when you die, just like a rate, like trust for a house or a bank account, like with $30 million in it, you can say in your trust, upon my death, the beneficiaries get this or that. So at that point, the trust is a private document that nobody has to know about. Now, the ATF gets a copy of your trust when you submit it. But other than that, they don't have to file a Form 5 or do anything with it. So that's an advantage there. The other advantage, and this is kind of where the one of the bigger things is, that's really one of the things you can avoid. Is an immediate, nobody, everybody can keep using it, everybody can work it together. And just like a normal trust, you avoid probate court. Nobody ever gets to hear about it. Whereas if you die and you have a will saying, I, Winston, will my AK-47 to my brother Bob. Well, anybody could find that will and say, oh, Bob has an AK-47 now. Now, do criminals come through there looking for guns to go steal from people? No. But people would then know that you did that. So just like a regular trust, nobody gets to know that doesn't have a right to know. So it's got its own advantages. It's got its own advantages. Let's see here. Let me see here. You could put land in a trust. Yes. Yes. You can 100%. Funky Monkey says, if you put your weapons in a trust, could you take out an insurance plan on them and loan against it? You'd have to find somebody willing to insure your items, and then I don't know. I mean, you'd have to find somebody willing to do that. And I doubt they would let you. I doubt they'd let you. I doubt they would let you. So, yes. Uzi 9mm. Uzi 9mm. To quote the great Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, Winston, I hope that answered your questions. John Doe says, will they get mad if I haven't paid my $200 by the time my antique Pack 88 arrives? Yes, you have to pay the tax before you receive the items, and you technically can't really receive ownership of the items till you get your stamp. So, yeah. Trump one says 400 foot-pounds per second is cute. Dude, there are air rifles out there that you can kill hogs with that shoot like 30 caliber slugs of lead. So no, air rifles are dangerous. There are air rifles that will kill people, like shoot you through the skull and kill you. They're dangerous out there. Brad says a trust is something you do. You set up so your kids can do coke. So Blaine saying a trust is nice for family up until the rule where they required separate fingerprints for all beneficiaries. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. It's called, responsible persons. So the grantors in the trust, the trustees, yeah. That was the rule they changed back in 2017. So before that, there were no rules. You just submitted your paperwork and there were no fingerprints required. So it was a really quick way to get stuff done. Robot Glock says, what if I have a felony and I'm gifted a firearm via a will or a trust? You can't accept it. You cannot accept it. So you should find somebody else to take it. Because it doesn't matter that you're giving it to you. By law, you can't possess it. Which sucks. But that's how it works. Let's see here. Funky Monkey says, I wonder if you could use a trust to set up like a gun club or similar to what they have in Australia, but it's voluntary instead of mandatory. I mean, you could probably do that if you wanted to, but here in America, there's no real need to do that. That would just be ridiculous. That would just be like here in America, that would just be a non-thing there. So that's not I get what you're saying, but that's just not a thing here. You just won't do that. It won't work the way you're like. I get you're worried about like how you had to do stuff in certain countries, but we don't have to do things like that here. That would just be like having a bunch of guys on a trust. I mean, after a while, if you get too many people start fighting over shit anyway. So having really anybody outside your family on the trust is kind of a bad idea, but you can always do it. Let's see here. Funky Monkey says, I thought you didn't have to tell the government about big artillery things. If it's black powder, you don't have to tell them. Like a black powder cannon, that's not regulated. But if you own like a flak 88, like an 88 millimeter, anti-aircraft gun, you do have to pay a tax on that, and you have to notify them. If you own a 155 howitzer or you own a mortar, you have to. But if you own something that's black powder, like a big black powder cannon, like off a pirate ship, no, you don't have to notify them. So yes, old artillery, correct. But really, if you get to anything breech loading, that kind of changes the game. Taxes are theft, yeah. So, let's see here. Let me see here. Yes, Lewis and Clark also had air rifles. Yep. Benjamin Lewis says you have to surrender to a beneficiary of the trust if they get a felony or arrest. Yes, and the NFA trust I've put together for people before, it includes provisions like if you get indicted or you're disabled or you're a prohibited person, you're considered dead in the trust until you rectify the problem. So there are things you can do that. But if you happen to own yourself stuff individually, that's why you find a friend who's an SOT somewhere and you can turn stuff over to them and they could diagnose an unknown mechanical issue. And I'm just say, look, he gave it to me. It's not working. I'm chasing the gremlins. I'm holding his guns for him. Now, that's probably the only other way you can do it if you're an individual owner. Funky Monkey says there's no fancy pants clubs for rich guys. Oh, there are. There are very, very, very bougie shooting clubs, but that's not how they work. Robot says, Glock says an LLC. I mean, an LLC is another way to do stuff. You can set up an LLC to have your own firearms. The only problem is you have to keep the LLC active. So the trust, you never have to do anything to update the trust. The trust can sit for 25 years and you do nothing to it. It's still valid. The LLC, you have to follow up and do LLC stuff too. You also have to pay to register an LLC. And an LLC is then also public record. People can find out because you have to have an agent to serve. You have to have an agent. So LLCs, get the public to your information. So, yeah. Yohan says you're putting me in your trust. Well, there is a trust, AR15.com. Some guy put up his trust he was using, and a lot of people copied and pasted it, and they didn't change it all the way. So there's a bunch of trusts out there where there's some guy in Maryland who's going to be the beneficiary to a lot of NFA items when people die. So, yes, you have to be very careful about copy and pasting stuff. So, has chick, yes, you're on a plane. I couldn't get to the post office in time, so I will get your stuff tomorrow and go through it. Yes, Blaine, everything over a half inch is a destructive device, but black powder cannons are considered antiques, so they are not governed that way. So, for example, like a traditional cannon that you muzzle load with black powder is not considered a destructive device. So, can we take a cannon across state lines? If it's black powder and it's like a traditional cannon, there's no regulations on it. You might have state laws, but there's no federal regulations on it. Like I said, if you happen to have an 88 millimeter anti-tank gun, yes, you would need federal permission to truck that around. So, John Doe says, yes, you can be like the 1/14th owner of a $4.5 million ranch. Yep. Yep. Trump one saying, what about those people that build their PSA daggers without intent or reason? The thing runs full auto. Well, if you're suffering mechanical failure, that's a different problem. That's not something people tried to do. And if there's mechanical issues, you're not you have to knowingly possess a machine gun. Now, there are some cases out there like where people have had guns that have malfunctioned and they keep fucking around with it and like, oh, look, my AR-15 malfunctions. Brrr. Oh, wow, it's broken. Brrr. And they keep shooting it and shooting it and shooting it. And then after a while, they never fixed it. And then, yeah, that turns into now you knowingly have a machine gun. But if you're sitting at the range and all of a sudden you're like, boop, like if I took this guy, if I took him to the range tomorrow and I'm shooting him trying to figure out why everything's all fucked up inside of it. And all of a sudden it goes, brrr, I don't knowingly have a machine gun. I would at that point be upon me to take it apart and figure out what's broken and fix that problem. If I just kept it, I'm knowingly now possessing a machine gun. So that's what I would say there. Let's see. Funky Monkey says, even a fire lance? Are you talking about like some welding tools or fire lance? What is a fire lance? Mr. Squiggle says, why does it have to be black powder? Because smokeless powder, if you're dealing with smokeless powder, you're dealing with like breech loading and shell-based artillery, which the government doesn't want you to have. Black powder is, only so dangerous. And, think about it. You have to like fire and then you have to swab the barrel. And you have to pull all the garbage out. And then you have to reload it with new powder. And you shove a cannonball in. And then you have to go around and prime it. And then you have to set it. And then you fire it. And then boom. I mean, there's a whole process to a cannon. Versus in our modern artillery system where you take a shell, run it in, close the breech, bang! Ejects, run it in, close the breech, bang! Like, there's a big difference in those to the government. So there we go. Jordan Pierce says, swap your barrel. Yes, that's very true. So we got some comments here we got to get to here. Lone Alaskan says, I'm not excited for this. Well, we'll see what happens. Snoop STP says, I'm totally owned by the Zionists. I'm on Soros' short list. Well, how did you know? You're noticing too much. You notice too much, sir. You notice too much. Unforced Ego for $20. Thank you. He's saying, don't the Thursday night streams usually start at 8? No, they normally start at 9:30. I feel like the dog waiting for Futurama. Oh, poor Seymour. You left milk and didn't come back. Well, that's not a. Yeah. No, we always start at 8 unless you're making a joke. But thank you for the super chat. Amateur Iconoclast for 17 months. Thank you for the support, man. Says, I see you picked up Nick's habit of tardiness. Well, tardiness, not being a tard. Are you going to move on to the alcoholic then cokehead phase or skip that and go straight to the whippets? I don't think we're going to do any of that. EDW Raptor says, is it your birthday yet? No. Linda Richards says, short show tonight, like an itty bitty Diddy Tootsie Roll. Kind of. Thanks, Linda. Dolly Talk says, happy birthday. It's not my birthday, guys. Not till August. I appreciate that, though. Franz, who's been a member for 17 months. Thank you for your support. Says, can we reach the goal? I don't know, chat. Will we reach the goal? Jefferson Post gifted 1 sub. Thank you for the support. Thank you. EDW Raptor says, God bless the goal. Yes. Torgo the White says, call your senators and bitch at them to re-add the short act in the Senate and help reach the goal, chat. Yes. Call them. Tell them to get it through. Be nice if we could. Unforced Ego for $10 says, Nick Rekieta told me I could defame the nanny. Well, I get what you get. Somebody says I'll do whippets, but it's canned cheese. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Cheese Whiz. Marlene for $10 says, has Nick relapsed yet? I mean, he's doing whippets. I don't know if he's relapsed yet, but we'll see. Who knows? Erica Thorpe says, happy birthday, Sean. Thank you. It's not my birthday, though. You guys are really going to confuse people who don't watch all the time. You got to stop. KRM, who's been a member for 15 months. Thanks for the support, man. I appreciate it. It says, 2.0, did you get me a 338 Win Mag and Spring Bear tags? No, she did not. I'd take like a 416 in the against the Bear. 338 Mag would help, but like get like a Rigby 416, 416 Rigby or something like that. That's what I think probably be a better Bear rifle, because then you're like, depending on how close they get. So, because it's not like I'm running away from one. David from Making Law Simple says, is it my Sweet 16? No, it's my Kinsey era. Been there, done that says, can I get a choo-choo? Yes, hold on. There you go. Aquila says, I don't know about Rumble, but there's at least one person on Twitter. Well, thank you. High Number says, do you think the head injury doctor has any impact on the prosecution for the Karen Reed case? I mean, I don't probably think at the end of the day, yes. I mean, certainly, we know he cracked his head open, so I don't know. I don't think so, and not as big as people are thinking. And that's a big problem, guys, on both sides of the Karen Reed thing, pro or anti-Karen Reed. There are too many people on the pro side who think Karen, the defense team, scored. If they were out playing golf, Hank and Alan Jackson went to play golf, they'd tell you Alan Jackson scored 14 holes and won. There's just as many people on the anti-Karen Reed side who'd say Hank Brennan has scored 14 holes and won so far. It's going back and forth. It's a very close case still. Visit Hedonism 2 for $5 Australian dollary doodles says, Sean, come for Movie Thursday. We're playing the body cam footage followed by new Twister by the pool. I mean, when you put it like that, Charlie says, brother Sean, Charlie is the same Charlie we've been, haven't seen you in a while, man. Hope to see you on with locals, unless you're a different Charlie. Brother Sean, thoughts on the nanny conspiring to take Nick down. Also thoughts on genital jousting. I look forward to a quality game to gift to the family. Well, genital jousting, I played it for about 10 minutes. It's interesting. It's very interesting. The controls are a little weird. But yes, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. As far as conspiring to take a nanny conspiring to take Nick down, when a man's drowning at sea, he'll grab for anything he can. Brass the Deplorable says, I can't believe Minnesota has only one bar. Well, it's the premier bar. Stonies. Benjamin Lewis, who's been a member for 16 months, says, Robert Gouveia would be a great guest to discuss politics. I'd love to have Robert Gouveia on. I've talked to him a couple times, but I DM him quite a bit. Hey, have you seen this story? Have you seen that story? Robert Gouveia is a pretty good guy. Love talking, love listening to him. I listen to him quite a bit. Very knowledgeable, very good attorney. Although now I think, from what I understand, he kind of does this full time, which pretty cool that he can do that. Pretty cool he can do that. And thank you for the 16 months, by the way. And did we catch up? I think we... Oh, here we go. EDW Raptor. Talking about the jailbreaks. Damn, Styx Hexenhammer, whose real name is Tarl, and his chaos magic is causing prisoners escape. It puts Ag Biochemist and I in danger. Yes. EDW Raptor also says New Orleans suffers from FFCD, forever federal consent decree. This jailbreak is par for the course for the Orleans Parish Sheriff and the New Orleans Police. Yes. There's rampant corruption in Louisiana. WMMAC Now says, rest in peace, Simon Mann. Yes. 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 Former soldier of fortune. And yes, the epitome of it. A guy that Count Dankula did a Mad Lads on and was, and I think he is, I mentioned Equatorial Guinea. That is where, yeah. So, if you guys don't know him, he is famous for starting Sandline International. They were a similar organization to Executive Outcomes throughout the 90s. He's a former SAS operator. They did all kinds of, like, if you need a coup, we'll help you do it. So some real dogs of war shit. Except he got stuck in a prison in Equatorial Guinea, fucking around and kind of pissing off the CIA. So, but yes, he died this month. Died about 2 weeks ago. So let's see here. DK Cripple's been a member for 9 months. He says Ohio over Minnesota any day. Very true. Very true. Squizgar says, if it's a tax and it's set at 0, does that not help fighting it all together in court? A tax at 0 is not a tax, it's a registration. Yeah, but then they would argue, well, you don't have to pay a tax, so it's not that big a deal. Remember, you are not going to get the court to repeal the NFA. You're not getting the Supreme Court to repeal the NFA. Remember what I said, chat. You could have 9 Clarence Thomases there, and you're not getting machine guns back. The government's never going to let that happen. Squidguard says, as far as I know, it only removes it from the NFA, but it leaves in the Gun Control Act. Yes. Not sure how it's going to work with other state laws. Well, states can still ban them because the Supreme Court's never smacked it down. Although if these get delisted from the NFA, that would make the court cases much stronger going forward. Squizcar has been a member for 11 months. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it, man. Let's see here. Let's see. You guys are asking, was Crimestream of Vinny Politan from Court TV really good? Yes, I didn't get to watch all of it, but I watched about half of it. Very good. I was very nice. Kurt does a really good job interviewing people. But Vinny Politan was on, the guy from Court TV. Yeah, no, it was awesome. Kurt had an awesome interview. He had a good get. I think he did a good job with that. So my hat's off to Kurt for running an awesome interview like that and getting a great guest. Winston says, why are SIG 320s legal if they malfunction and accidentally discharge? Because it's not illegal to make a defective product. Remington 700s were doing this for a while when you'd put the safety on. They are unpredictably bad. It's broken. It's broken. It's bad. It's gay. That's because it's not illegal to make a gun that doesn't work right. So, but yes, don't buy SIG 320s. They're fucking dangerous. SIG is now recommending you carry it without a round in the chamber. That tells you all you need to know. Natasha with 5 subs closing us out for the night. There we go, chat. Wow, we're like, we spent the last like 30-35 minutes just BSing. So we did have a nice, good short show. Granola says Kurt did a great job at the interview. There you go. So, let's see here. Torgo says, if they remove machine guns from the NFA, the Hughes Amendment would be moot. Yeah. And I didn't see you, Jim, if you mentioned something here. Let me go back and see it. I didn't see it. Oh, the guy from Cheers died the other day. Yes. Yes, he did. Rest in peace, Norm. I only play new laser tag. Well, how did you know? Bella says, was Alessi on the OJ team? No. Robert Alessi was not on the OJ team. He had his own team of like assassins on his team. You know, he had Robert Shapiro, who was the guy who put the team together. That was really his skill. Robert Shapiro was on the team. F. Lee Bailey, Alan Dershowitz. I mean, those guys were great. Those guys were the great, all part of it. Barry Schenck, the guy who was the DNA and science guru, who later on went to do the Innocence Project. Johnny Cochran. Like, yeah, they did a great thing there. Alessi was not on that team, though. So let me see here. Where am I? I can't see. So you want to do a rule where I use the whistle like PPP's triangle? Yeah, well, maybe we'll do that. Yes, all aboard the train to Tardville. That's what we'll do. But yeah, if machine guns got removed, the Hughes Act would be irrelevant anymore. So, and even if it wasn't violating the Hughes Act, I mean, like that point, like fuck it, I would violate it at that point anyway. So, because remember, the ATF's the only one to approve stuff. Yes, foamer alert. So, wasn't it the Rihanna song? Oh no, boner alert. So. Anyways, guys, that is it for us tonight. So we are all caught up. Aussie says I need to interview the nanny. Well, yes, GOA has said that they have a new avenue of attack on state bans. I think so, but we'll see what happens. And yes, the irony Mofolk is saying that the 320 in California is labeled as a safe handgun. Yes. Yes. Very true. So, but no, I'm not going to interview the nanny. There's like, what's she going to, you guys, it's best to let that thing cook on its own and just laugh as it boils over. Because that's how you let it happen. You don't need to bring in people to tell you that the cows are out in the pasture grazing. Let the wild cows graze. Eventually, they'll cause things, and then you can laugh at them. So there you go. So with that said, chat, we're all done for tonight. Let's hope that suppressors get unlisted. We can 3D print stuff. It'll be fun. I'm just not sure it's going to happen. We'll see. We'll see, though. But chat, Karen Reed starts back up Tuesday. Tomorrow night's Russell Greer. Saturday, we are going to do the SCOTUS oral arguments that they just had recently. It's 3 hours long, so we're going to have to really get into it. But it should be pretty good. We will get involved there. And remember, yes, everyone's crashing out. Nick, Hassan, iDubbbz, Ethan Klein. Well, Ethan Klein's picking up some dubs along the way, but he is crashing out too. They're all crashing out. So we will be at it this weekend. There's so much to do. It's Memorial Day, guys. Obviously remember those who gave the sacrifice. And if you guys are out there and personally, people you served with, hope you get through this. I hope it's not too rough for you. I know for some people, Memorial Day is kind of a rough day. So, don't be afraid to talk to people you need to, if you need to lean on people. With that said, chat, you guys have a great night. I will see you over on Locals. And remember, until next time, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. That includes Karen Reed. So, good night, chat. And I'll see you guys over on Locals. Take care. Remember, Russell Greer, tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern. It will be fun.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law.
EDW Raptor for wide sob. Let's go, chat. Let's go.
Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops. Even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. But please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy Rick Hayden yelled at? Why, yes it was. He even knows he's fat. For all the
Johan Naxos for 1 sub. Let's go, chat. Let's go.
Fun and more